is born. That whisper that won't stop. That feeling that something is wrong, even when everything seems fine. You don't know where it comes from, but it follows you. It follows you in the shower, in the car, in the early mornings when you can't sleep. It's the symptom of an unintegrated life. It's the sign that parts of you remain trapped in the shadow, waiting to be seen. And here comes the next level, the body. Because everything you don't integrate, the body expresses. The tension in the shoulders, the knot in the stomach, the pressure in the chest. All that you call stress or anxiety is often nothing more than the body language of the unheard soul. Your body screams what your psyche does not dare say. Many men live with a contracted body, defensive, ready to fight or flee, never at rest, never surrendered. Do you know why? Because they are at war with themselves. Because there is a constant internal struggle between what they feel and what they think they should feel, between what they desire and what they have been conditioned to desire. That dissonance consumes them. It prevents them from being present. It prevents them from truly loving. It prevents them from connecting. Because you cannot connect with anyone when you are disconnected from yourself. You can be surrounded by people, even admired, but still be alone. Because the deepest loneliness is not having no one beside you. It's not having yourself. And that is another symptom of the uninitiated man. Disconnection. Not only emotional, but also spiritual. It doesn't matter if you believe in something higher or not. We're not talking about religion. We're talking about purpose, meaning, that invisible thread that connects you to life. The shadow, the maternal complex, the mask, all part of the process. But the ultimate goal is much deeper. Connection to your center, to that which you cannot explain, but know is there. When a man doesn't find himself, he seeks purpose anywhere, in money, in sex, in fame, in approval. But all that runs out, all that is external, and the external is always fragile. The only thing that remains is what is born from within, what you build from the essentials. That is why the journey toward integrated masculinity is also a journey toward inner silence. Toward that part of you that needs no proof, needs no justification. That simply is. And here something curious happens. The deeper you go in your process, the harder it is to explain it. Because language falls short. Because what you discover cannot be put into words. It can only be lived. And living from there is living with a new quality of presence. You no longer react. You no longer need to impose yourself. You no longer compete to be the strongest, smartest, most successful. Because there is no one left to prove anything to. The energy you once dedicated to appearance, you now dedicate to substance. And that transforms your life. It transforms how you speak, how you walk, how you listen, how you love. You are no longer on guard. You are no longer performing a role. You are there with all you are. No adornments, no strategies, no fear. And that presence, that inner calm, that firmness without rigidity, that is power. Power that doesn't need to impose. Power that doesn't need noise. Power born of self-mastery. Jung knew it. True masculine power is not in what you conquer, but in what you hold. Not in what you accumulate, but in what you integrate. But this has a price. Because when you reach that level, you begin to see the fractures of the world. You begin to notice how many men live trapped, repeating cycles, disconnected from themselves and others. And you will be tempted to wake them, to shake them. But you can't, because each one must walk their own path. Some need to hit bottom. Others need to live through a crisis. Others simply will never wake up. Your task is not to wake them. Your task is not to fall asleep again, because the world needs present men. Men who know themselves. Men who have gone through their shadow and come back. Men capable of holding without possessing, of leading without dominating, of protecting without oppressing. And that, my friend, is rare, very rare, because most still confuse masculinity with aggression, control, success. But you already know. True masculinity is silent, firm, deep, and above all, conscious. So here's the last question. Are you willing to live with that consciousness, even if it leaves you alone? Even if no one understands? Even if you lose everything that once defined you? Because that is the price. But also, it's freedom. And once you taste it, you can never go back. Never again. And here comes a new enemy, subtle, silent, and dangerous. Self-deception. That psychological mechanism that disguises itself as logic, pragmatism, even maturity. Self-deception is the ego's last stronghold when it feels everything is collapsing. It doesn't say, keep acting, no. It says, you've already overcome this, you've changed enough, no need to go deeper. And there it traps you, because the ego doesn't die with a crisis. It transforms. It learns to dress up as spirituality, emotional intelligence, false humility. It sneaks through cracks you didn't know you had. It makes you believe you are awake when you've only changed costumes. True awakening is not a glorious event. It's not a moment of illumination full of peace and understanding. Often it's a loss, an abandonment, a total disorientation. It's looking inside and finding no clear answers, realizing you know nothing and having the courage to stay there without running again to another mask. Because the hardest part of this journey is not the pain, it's the brutal honesty it requires. Honesty with yourself. And that honesty reveals another truth few are willing to accept. Psychological and emotional growth is not linear. It's not a ladder upwards. It's a spiral, a descent, a series of symbolic deaths over and over. And with each descent, you lose something you once thought essential. Your pride, your image, your certainties. And each time you lose something, you are reborn. But not as someone new. You are reborn more you than ever. The problem is that in our culture, no one wants to die symbolically. No one wants to stop being someone we live obsessed with building an identity, with the world knowing who we are, with defining ourselves at all costs. But Jung said it. To find yourself, you first have to lose yourself. And that means dismantling layer by layer everything you thought you were. There is no other way. And here comes another theme that has haunted us forever. The father wound. If before we spoke of the maternal complex, now we must talk about the absent father. Not just the physical father, but the archetype of the father. That figure who represents law, internal structure, direction. In many men, that archetype is damaged, distorted, or completely absent. Many grew up with weak, authoritarian, or emotionally closed male figures, and that void transfers into their psyche like a broken compass. They don't know how to set boundaries, how to make decisions from internal truth, how to hold structure without falling into rigidity or chaos. And that lack of an internal father manifests in one of two ways. Either they become tyrants of themselves, or eternal adolescents waiting for someone else to tell them what to do. That is why part of the journey toward integrated masculinity involves rebuilding that internal figure, becoming your own father, the father you never had, the one who tells you what you need to hear, not what you want to listen to, the one who holds you, guides you, but also confronts you. And this is not psychological fantasy. It is real inner work. Learning to contain your rage, your fear, your impulse to flee, learning to care for yourself from maturity, not self-indulgence. And do you know what happens when you rebuild your internal father? You stop needing external authority. You no longer seek anyone to validate your path. You no longer wait for permission to be who you are. You begin to live from a silent authority, one that does not impose but neither kneels. And there begins personal sovereignty, the purest core of your masculinity. But there is more, something most avoid completely. Grief. The grief of the identity you leave behind. The grief of dreams that no longer make sense. The grief of the image you built over years and now know was only armor. This grief is not decorative. It is essential. Because without grief, there is no liberation. Without grief, there is only the accumulation of unprocessed pain. Men tend to be experts at dodging grief. We say, it's over, that's past. It made me stronger. But in reality, we hold it all in. We encapsulate it in the chest, in the back, in the soul. And one day, it explodes. In the form of illness, of anger, of disconnection. Because what you don't cry rots you. The man who does not cry is a man who has not been touched by life. Or worse, a man who was touched and shut down forever. Psychological maturity is not the absence of pain. It is the ability to go through it without losing yourself, without anesthetizing yourself, without lying to yourself. It is allowing that pain to transform you instead of destroying you. It is holding yourself in the middle of the storm, knowing you are rebuilding yourself from truth. And when you go through all this, when you integrate your shadow, heal your relationship with the feminine, rebuild your internal father figure, and cry what you need to cry, then the unexpected happens. You begin to inhabit your life with new energy. You no longer drag yourself out of obligation, nor run out of fear. You move from another place, from the calm of one who knows himself, from the certainty of one who has died inside and returned. And it is there, right there, where life truly begins. You no longer do just for the sake of doing. You no longer speak just to speak. You no longer live on autopilot. Everything you touch, you do from presence, from depth, from a masculinity that doesn't need to be shouted because it is breathed in every gesture. Then you realize something staggering, that this whole journey was not to become someone new, but to remember who you always were before the world broke you, before society, family, culture molded you in their image and likeness. And there, at that point, true rebirth happens. But beware, not everyone is ready to see you like that. People fear free men. Systems fear men who think for themselves. Structures tremble when a man stands up without needing recognition. Because you can't control him. You can't manipulate him. You can't buy him. And that's when the circle closes. You discover you didn't come to fit in, you came to wake up. That your path is not to please, nor compete, nor accumulate. It's to transform yourself, and consequently to transform the world around you. Because one awake, conscious, present man has more impact than 1,000 obedient men. Just one, who no longer acts, nor performs, nor hides, who simply is. And now it's your turn to decide. Will you keep waiting for something external to save you? For a new guru, a new technique, a new achievement to arrive? Or will you start, today, walking toward your truth? Even if everything shakes, even if it hurts, even if you lose everything. Because what really matters is never lost. It was just waiting for you to take off the mask. And here you are. You've made it to the end. It's no coincidence. Something inside you.
Dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely 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 dangerous to our democracy.
This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now.
We live in a time where just standing on basic rights is heroic because we're all so used to giving them up day to day that, like, when somebody comes forward and says, no, we have these rights and I'm going to stand on them and I'm going to be unwavering, this has now become heroic. This has become, like the founder said, telling the truth in a world full of lies is a revolutionary act, right? I'm not one of these folks like they claim who wants to overthrow government. I understand spiritually, government would only be necessary for a population of folks who have proven they cannot govern themselves based on natural law and God's law. And that's exactly what we have. So I'm a proponent of folks who are able to govern themselves, who understand the foundational principles of the law of this land, that they be left alone. They say these are the most dangerous folks on the land. Why? Because they're talking and standing on what they're saying. They're not doing nothing to nobody. They're just revealing to everyone we have God-given rights, and they're willing to stand on them and die for them. And that's the most dangerous man on the planet right now. Right now, the rest of the slaves, the ones who self-identify as trustees, whether they know it or not, part of the United States federal corporation, federal body politic, they have a duty and obligation through contract to uphold policies and codes. Because now, again, there's two classes of being. There's a privileged class of being under the law, and then there's a protected class of being. Most of us have opted into being a privileged class where we get privileges and benefits in exchange for essentially our rights by contract. So majority of folks are entering into a contract. They have made themselves a part of a corporate body politic, and therefore they have an obligation to fulfill that contract. If they want to correct that status and that standing and that presentment, and therefore renegotiate on that contract, right, and go back to being a man or woman on the land, then they're not subject to policy and code. They're only subject to the law of the land and essentially God's law, right? A set of laws that's in our conscience. It's discoverable. We can come to know it and do it, and we will create a kingdom of heaven out of that. But because we do not seek the truth and be set free, we are born into a certification program where a legal person is created, an all caps entity is created, and we spend the first 18 years identifying as that entity everywhere we go, taking our birth certificate and our social security down to DMV, getting ourselves a license for a right we already have. A license is synonymous with doing business and commerce. At a point, they created a group, a corporate capacity, where everybody opts into in order to be kept safe, right? This is sort of the movement of the idea, in my mind, of the republic into a demosocracy, where, okay, you identify as this member of the corporate body politic, you're agreeing that you want to be kept safe. And we see this now, where folks are going to their government to be kept safe and being given benefits and privileges. You have a split now, bifurcation, where the republic has now become a demosocracy in a lot of people's minds. There is no more faith structure. There is no more family structure. The state has essentially been moved in as our cosmic parents on every level. They've taught us through the public schooling system funded by the state that we need them. And if you don't accept that premise, then you are an extremist. You're trying to threaten everybody else's safety. So we see the tiptoe and march toward complete collectivism and mob rule and demosocracy, all backed by a technocratic component where everybody is tracked, traced, and surveilled. And if you don't follow policy and code, then you're deemed to be essentially an enemy combatant. As far as the Declaration of Independence goes, policy, statute, and code is only given the force of law through the consent of the governed. So we're being compelled to follow statute, policy, and code, but we have not been given full disclosure and notice, and we have not signed the contract properly, right? So these folks are running around overthrowing God's law and the law of the land. They're not even banging on original principles. They're just out here harming themselves and each other, doing whatever they want to do. This is ubiquitous. All classes of society has lost their original mission statement and does not follow their principles and their own policy and code. They've just become completely reprobate, ego unbound. They're going to do whatever they want to do because they're going to chase money and they're going to chase status and power, and they've relinquished their original status and power straight from the supernatural. Any man or woman born on this land that does not uphold the original principles, precepts, and philosophy of law, because ignorance of the law is no excuse. You are damned to a form of spiritual judgment. I don't care if you think it's funny, you think it's a big joke. I'm telling you, the karmic and dharmic law of this realm, if you continue to create and stand on wrongdoing and defend it and enforce it, you're going to bring about demonic conditioning in this realm. You've already seen it. I don't know where you folks have been. We're already there. And you're damn well down with it. Well, most folks think it's just dandy.
Greetings, slaves and slavettes, free men and women. Got to get them riled up right off the bat. Ryan Horde says, for blessings and thanks. Thank you, Mr. Horde. Sincerest appreciations for folks who contribute and support and are a part of this co-creation pretty much from the beginning. You are a constant blessing to and potentially a test and a challenge, right? What's Paulie going to do when he can no longer blame, as I'm sure we all do at certain points in life, but I'll keep it in the eye. What am I going to do when I can no longer blame the fact that there's no contributions and support and co-creation, and I have to actually step out into complete actualization and realization, move forward, take risks, and reappropriate value to co-create something? I guess we shall see. So that's a good problem to have, I would say. Mr. Brian O'Shea is here. I asked Mr. Brian O'Shea to come over and, maybe just hang out a little bit. Brian O'Shea is like a spirit animal of mine. Just having him there, like, comforts me. Like thy rod and thy staff, thy Brian O'Shea comforts me. I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. My local dragon has stolen my village's gold. How many gold coins should I sell my elixirs for? I don't know what that means. Hopefully they're not calling myself and or Brian O'Shea snake oil salesman. I'm not selling anything here. I'm making no promises here. I'm just here to present something, to co-create something, to express, and surrender the rest. Brian O'Shea, how the hell are you?
Good. Get my ass in shape. Did jiu-jitsu 3 days in a row with some kickboxing as well.
Cut it out, Brian O'Shea. You just wanted a reason to roll around with other grown men.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Are we doing on the ground today? Are we doing man on the street, like second hour? If I can pull it off and carry this thing with you into the second hour. Is that something you're wanting to do? Are you feeling that? I don't want to pressure you.
Yeah, we could do that. I'm clearly not going to be entertaining fucking in this office. Got to get on that street to have a shot.
Well, I think any day with Brian O'Shea here is better. It's a better day. Anything is better with Brian O'Shea. But I think that, yes, on the ground is where you shine. And we can do a little bit of audience interaction there. The audience has questions, comments, concerns that they want to put forth to the public, the public, as I've affectionately coined the term. We're open to that. We support that. Brian's pretty cool. So, all right, let's just get right into it. If you got anything that you want to present or comment on, of course, I'm open to that. The link is down there. If anybody has any questions, comments, concerns, presentments, optics, court simulations, you know the deal. You know the thing.
OTW is live right now.
OTW is live now. Thank you for promoting him here indirectly.
I have a resentment against him.
Oh yeah, well, what's that? Air your grievances, Mr. O'Shea. The court of Unslaved-The.
It's just the second you leave his presence, he becomes a fucking bitch. Man, that dude's like scary almost, bro. Like, I don't trust that motherfucker at all. To be able to flip flop as hard as he does, the second you're out of his fucking, you're not holding his hand on a panel.
You're saying
he flip flops he does it every time. You show up, he's good. You leave, he goes right back to whatever the fuck he's doing. It's
there's a
fucking
weird
insane.
thing that seems to go on with me, especially after I've sort of intimidated a lot of folks, where they have this setting and standard that they believe they have to live up to, and they do it because I'm there. And then when they think I'm not there, they go back to their default position, which at the end of the day, I'd respect you more if you just hold to whatever it is that you believe to be your source of power and value, or just peace in your actions and relationships. Like ultimately, at the beginning and the end of the day, I can't, nor would I expect anyone else to do or be anything for or with me, right? Because then I lose respect for them. I'm not saying he's doing that. You're saying he's doing that. But that's a pattern and a theme that I've seen here many times, and I guess there's multiple aspects to it, right? There's a part of me, I guess, as a human or a control freak that listens to what people say and believe that because they're close to me or co-create with me for a certain amount of time, that there's some level of standard and loyalty, and there's not. I've literally watched a good amount of people, and I'm not saying you have to be enemies with these people either. It's just kind of a middle ground of responsibility and accountability. But I've watched people who say, what we do here is important, it's valuable, we're riding for it, we know we need it, and then say that they enjoy watching other people have various successes who've tried to lie on me and demean and devalue what we do here beyond the extras. And I go, where's the self-respect? Where's the true respect for me and what we do, and yourself and others, and the whole thing? Where's the integrity? But I've had to kind of let that go, right? Because then that's just another aspect of my experience that potentially gets in the way of my experience. Let everyone do and be whatever they want to do and be. I make little to no presumptions or assumptions at this point. And I'd rather not engage in hypocrisy. There's been folks who've lied on me and in their own way have tried to destroy me or what I do, who I still interact with and will give them the time of day and try to forgive, if not forget. So, if I'm doing that from time to time and I'm engaging in that perspective, why shouldn't other people around me? I guess if that's what they're called to do. So I guess chalk it up to optics, intimidated, LOL. Well, yeah, that's apparently what it's become at some point, right? I and my area are not as safe as they could be. The bottom line, people are not trusting in me or what I do after a certain point because they don't feel safe, because I get loud, or I make presumptions and assumptions, or I point things out about people I've experienced to try to either force accountability or be entertaining, usually a little bit of both at certain points.
So you show up on OTW today, have a beautiful conversation, even though there's miscreants there. And of course, host state. That's the thing. I don't even know if we should be talking about these people, dude, but they're just such fucking Joe Kool over there at host states. I pop in for a couple minutes just to see what the fuck they're chatting about. They got you up there where you're just spitting pure fucking wisdom. And of course, they're going to try to, and then they just talk shit and talk trash you the whole time. This whole fucking big ass panel, fucking losers. Chuck.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's been going on for years at this point. I don't even watch it, cover it. I don't let it into my space beyond a certain point, because it's just not productive for me, and there's no upshot there, right? I won't even necessarily make a determination on what they're doing and why they're doing it, although I have my suspicions and I've spoken about it before. Ultimately, I think it just comes down to, we're going to choose individually to be a part of something here universally and to grow and learn and actualize and realize and do better, be better, have better, or we're not, and we're going to be co-creating with or interacting with or subject to the same dynamics of the people who we're claiming we don't respect. So I guess the best way to go about this is I just get better for me and do better for me and have better for me in my life. Come on here when it's appropriate to me and do what I do, and then just let them talk about me or not. It doesn't change who and what I am and what I do at the beginning or the end of the day at all. Right. And ultimately, from the beginning, a lot of these folks have shown themselves it's really not about the truth. It's not about us actualizing and realizing together. It's about playing some kind of power game and doing some kind of false competition. They'll say I'm egotistical and arrogant because I will speak it just like this. You can't compete where you don't compare. even if we can compare on the camera, right, on the microphone in these broadcasting venues, some shape, form, or fashion, who and what we are on the ground and what we've done or are doing is not the same thing, right? And that's not, again, pride or ego or arrogance. From my perspective, that is just the truth. So I've decided, at least some places, sometimes, to give myself over to a walk of upholding the law and exercising rights and freedoms, because it's an idea whose time has come. And so everything else before and after that, to me, doesn't really matter much. You know, it's just extra. So like I always say, if you like it, I love it. If you like being a slave, if you like being a part of genocide, if you like hating and gossiping and projecting, if you like ignoring the truth and the law that we're here to uphold, you don't wish to co-create, well, have at it. There's more than enough people, places, and things on here that you can interact with and get lost within. You know, but I would rather not be a part of that. So again, that's another reason that folks will not feel safe around me, is because I'm willing to speak it just like that, unapologetically. They say that that's egotism and arrogance and narcissism. I say, I wish more people could get around me and say what they're actually doing or actually a part of to create a solution for the things we face. It's not about me saying I'm the only one or I'm one of a few, right? If I'm the only one or I'm one of a few, we got a big problem on our hands, potentially, right? So I guess, you know, folks have forgotten about that. And that leads to Brian O'Shea. We're going to bring it up here as an example. I want to thank Jimmy Shively. They hate on Jimmy Shively and the other contributors and supporters here too. We know it's out of jealousy and envy. So that means we're blessed, right? Ultimately, if we could do what we do and get results and inspire others on different levels and get contributions and support and co-create and have value and power and not have to front or lie or cheat or steal or gossip or anything else to do and be and get to have, well, then we're blessed. Blessed are those who are persecuted and prosecuted, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven, right? As long as we're on some level under God and this sort of conscience-based philosophy, and nobody can be under that completely all the time. I think we all stray from that. And I think we're all tested and challenged, not only in life, but on here, right? And tempted. So fascinating experience. I wouldn't change it for anything. Everyone just keep doing what you do. I wouldn't change it if I could, and I can't, because ultimately it's going to teach me more about me and what I need to change within myself. So I'm blessed even when I'm not. Appreciate you and all you do, sir. Mr. Shively says, thank you. And of course, that goes back both ways. Let's go to this quickly, Mr. Brian O'Shea, and then we'll do some chat interactions. It seems you got some folks over there who really want some attention, and daddy's home. So I'm willing to give them some time, energy, and attention, and to love them potentially in a way that even their own parents, you know, even their own grandpappy and mammy and all their friends and family haven't potentially been able to love and care for them the way their new favorite online daddy can and will and shall. So we'll see what they think of that. We have a 2-year break for driver's license. This was put in the Telegram.
For my friend, Luke.
No, not Luke. One second, Brian O'Shea. As of last week, you know, and what we've learned or what we seem to have learned with these press releases is they'll always try to give you excuses, because they just don't want to cop to and admit that there's a movement going on and it's decentralized. It's a movement of the cosmos, and we're becoming more conscious and aware, and we're asking questions, and we're not willing to comply. So now they got to deal with us differently, right? And I'm spearheading that. I'm one of the folks who's spearheading that, as silly as it sounds, right? Even to this day, that video that I've created that folks will try to demean and devalue is being seen 50 times a day at least, right? Even though it's been censored and I had to re-upload it at certain points, and I'm sure it's not deep in the algorithm, like many other interactions. Every day, 50 more people see it. Every day, 50 people go back and watch it. Every day, you know, all my interactions with police are being watched. So it's a sleeper cell, so to speak. It's sitting there. It's already done and over, but it's being seen daily by X amount of people. I don't care if it was 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever it is, 5 million. Every day, another 10, 15, 20 people decide, right? Or 5. I don't care what the number is. Every day, out of 50 people who watch that or rewatch that, a few decide they're out. They're going to try something different. they're going to live by purpose and meaning and principle, and they're going to get a result. We've already seen that here with yourself, myself, and many others. Dismissals galore. Doesn't matter how much they demean and hate and project. Dismissals, more inspiration, more motivation, more passion, more purpose, more surrender and faith, more co-creation, more rights, more upholding the law, more freedom. It's all right there. So this is how it's happening, one interaction at a time, believe it or not. That's the way the work is done. North Carolinians who need to renew their driver license. Let's pull it up. Can't really see it in this mode, but that's okay. Make it nice and big. As of last week, North Carolinians who need to renew their driver's license in the near future could get a 2-year break if a bill moving through the state house this week becomes law, and they'll just keep gaslighting about bills and acts and statutes and policies and codes, while the rest of us here, you know, us wacky, imaginative sovsits, we know that's not law. And I'll continue to say it over and over again as many times as I have to cement it into the subconscious and conscious minds of the people watching and listening. So we know that's not the case, but that's okay. House Bill 821 passed the House Rules Committee, which basically means that a bunch of corporate folks are sitting around and they're deciding what policy is going to be moving forward based on what the traffic will bear. See, I'm crazy like that. I use common sense and logic. Turns out if people stop cooperating and complying and just ask questions and give conditional acceptance, meaning they're not cooperating and complying, they will cooperate and comply when you substantiate what your position is based on something that is legitimate. If you can't do that, then we're free to ignore your statutes, policies, and codes with impunity. That's been ruled on many times, and that's the foundation of law in this land. And that's a beautiful thing. So I contend that the reason that they're not requiring license renewal for the next 2 years is because X amount of people have decided they're not going to do it anyway. They're going to ask questions, and they don't have answers, so they're going to try to see where this goes, potentially get out ahead of it, and potentially lessen the loss, injury, or harm done to people, because at the end of the day, they're going to get sued. Because also this week, if I'm right on the timeline, or this month, because a lot of this stuff is pretty recent in the scope of things, but may not be from the date that I get it from. But it's my understanding recently that a Supreme Court decision has been made by a bunch of folks, part of a corporation in their corporate attire, that says the cops will not be interfering with people's property and rights, will not be taking them and their papers and effects, ruling once again on what we already know the law of the land is, having to double down on that with corporate procedures and meetings and rulings. We'll see if they follow through. So that's the time we're alive at right now. You can't stop a good idea whose time has come. The time right now for us, and has been for X amount of years, probably way longer than the 3 to 5 years that I've been publicly sort of doing what I do in broadcasting and talking about results. The time has come. So folks want to cry and whine on the left and right. They want to point fingers. They want to talk about inflation, deflation, all the rest of the things people want to whine and cry about, when right here, just on the periphery, is an opportunity to be a part of an actual movement and consciousness to resolve the problems we face. And the foundations are all right there, systemically, all right there. Bring in the feds, activate them, get them to investigate the states and locals, get dismissals at court, sue them, stop cooperating and complying, using conditional acceptance. And I bet you, fast forward from now to, let's say, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, could be an actual reality. You'll see a radical change in the perspective of the way that we live on the ground here, and what's tolerated and accepted and what's not, and what people are held accountable for versus what's swept under the rug. So it's already happening. It's been happening. It's going to continue happening, because I and others are going to be a part of making it happen. Because guess what? The universe has a creator or co-creator here, and it has a will. And part of the will is for us to be free and pursue our happiness and be able to have and enjoy property and co-create and be prosperous, and not be a bunch of cowardly fucking slaves for the rest of our life, subject to statute, policy, and code by a bunch of corporate ties freaks, essentially. Some might say. I won't make that determination and that judgment. Because they like to talk about all the people having sex with children, who are on the drugs, who are doing the wars, well, then why are you paying them? Why are you complying with them? Why are you not putting up a different perspective is my question every time. Lubass, friend of the show. Greetings, Mr. Lubass. What can I do for you? What do you have to present? How can I serve you? Or what are you offering?
On here, like this was the last chance I was going to try to get on here. I tried every fucking thing. Type in the number. I can't even believe it. Like I could not.
Get closer, Lewis. You're already having technical issues.
No, it's worse than that. There's some kind of setting that's going on that on your channel I have to go through all these hoops. Now I don't know if that's got anything to do with you or me. I don't know, but this was my last chance, and I went through some back door that I didn't even know existed, but I got on here. Hi, Polly. Hi, Brian. How you doing?
How are you, Lewis? Get closer to the microphone, man.
Hold on. Let me check my settings.
Get your settings together. Let me get back to the article while you get your settings together. The proposal would give every license holder a 2-year grace period after the license expiring date to renew it. Now, I know all the good slaves out there go, oh man, we get a 2-year reprieve. My question is, as the bad kid, right? The kid in the back of the class who never wanted to follow orders, never did the work the way I was told, and always presumed everything was nonsense. I was that guy. You got to wonder, why would you not just indefinitely stop? And then the answer is always, because what are they going to do to us if we don't cooperate and comply? I was the guy who, hey, let's just walk out of class today. If we all do it, they can't punish everybody. No, I won't take that risk. So many folks wanted to, but they wouldn't take that risk. So even at school, I decided I'll just do it on my own. I'm going to do whatever I want to do, and I'm going to do it so often that at some point they're going to let me because they're going to be tired of interacting with me. Go ahead, Lewis. Are you there? I saw you in and out.
Is that any better?
Yes, that's better.
Okay. I'm getting it. By the time I'm maybe 101, I'll know how to operate all this shit.
Okay, so Representative Jay Adams, a Republicard, faker, right? Republican in name only, fascist, corporatist, statist, swine slave, some might say. Like both sides of the aisle, of course, all the pretenders, said it's a response to ongoing problems at the State Department of Motor Vehicles, but it's not a solution in itself. I wonder what those ongoing problems are at the DMV centers. I wonder if they're having an influx of at least hundreds, if not thousands, of folks who starting to buy into sovereign citizen propaganda. And we have a list again here today, like we did the other day, and a different list, because they're constantly going to put out these press releases every few months, every few years, every decade, letting everyone know what a sovereign citizen is and encouraging you not to be one. And you'll find out it basically just comes down to don't do what you want to do. Don't think you have rights. Just do whatever they tell you, right? Like with the IRS corporation, who Jennifer's now interacting with. There's no balance. They're not telling you exactly what to do. When you call up and ask them, they say, just do what everyone else does. That's hardly an answer that's lawful or pertinent to the facts. So it's amazing. These folks will send documentation saying, we're calling you a taxpayer, but even taxpayers have rights. And then they tell you have a right to question and get answers. When you ask them questions, they all start screaming or hanging up, or they say, just do what everyone else does. Doesn't exactly bode well for you folks as far as being professional and convincing us that what you're doing is legitimate and lawful. We're all starting to think that this is just some back boiler room operation where you're hiring glorified Walmart greeters to sit on a phone all day and convince everyone to just pay your corporation or else. See, that's not legitimate. And many folks are kind of tired of being told do this or else. So now they're like asking the tough questions. They're holding to a certain understanding. They're even saying, hell, put me in jail if you have to, because I don't know where this all goes. And I'd rather love God and the truth and myself than wind up disrespecting myself, the truth and God, and winding up in a plexiglass box because there's germs in the air again. That's the point of where we're at. One follows the other. It's plexiglass box treatment. It's mandates without religious exemption. It's throwing away the rule of law for fascism to wake the people up, to remind them of what was always here that they weren't activated within. Right? So a fascinating process. I'll never stop being somewhat interested or excited by how that all works. Let me finish up here, Lewis, and I'll go back to you and Brian O'Shea. Or is that it? Okay, that's it. Very limited. No more? Hold on. Republican Party for North Carolina 12th District is calling Charlotte mayor to resign in the wake of alleged settlement with Charlotte police chief Jenny Jennings. Sent shockwaves through the city. And there we go with the word right off the bat. Taxpayers have a right to know how their money is spent. Well, that's nice. It's nice that you guys do that little game where you call everyone a taxpayer, then try to defer to, or refer to people's rights as a taxpayer. What are their rights as men and women exactly? I always wonder. But we'll never get into that because that's sovereign citizen mumbo jumbo, Lewis, do you have any questions, comments, concerns, ideas here? Brian, same deal. I may continue on another couple lines of this. It's a very bizarre structured article. But it seems trouble in paradise. Seems that within a fascistic statist, collectivist organization, even the folks who are all corrupt and taking payoffs to be a part of the group aren't happy with themselves and each other and the way that the process and procedure is moving forward. Almost as if they're all becoming aware that if we don't stop this and we don't do something different, this land, this country, that this corporation they call a country is essentially going over the edge, pretty much to no return, right? We're in no man's land. So they're waking up now, better late than never, it would seem. And we're right on time because more and more of these folks on the inside are going to get a clue that we're not just whistling Dixie. This ain't sob sit mumbo jumbo. We're talking the actual law of the land and how it comes down through the chain of title and delegation of authority. And we're pointing out where it goes wrong when it's not upheld correctly, which is more than obvious at this point. Thoughts in general?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to watch the slaves just accept anything. No matter how they can, any level of tyranny, they're just willing to accept it. Forget about mandates without religious exemption. Fuck the religious exemption. You should have the right to say and do and be whatever the fuck you want. And no one should have the right to tell you what to do and how to do it. That's it. Stick a needle in my arm. Go fuck yourself.
Sounds kind of crazy, kind of unsafe. How everything's going to continue on and be orderly with that kind of attitude.
And I would like to watch these fucking auditors sometimes, and don't get me wrong. I think that in some way it serves a function, at least to open the door to the idea that there are rights and you should probably consider standing on them. So I watch them once in a while. Some of them are better than others, in my opinion. And there was one that just got arrested for something they did in Texas where they stopped everybody just to see if they had a driver's license. Right?
Why not?
So they literally stopped hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cars. They had fucking a makeshift jail set up, literally on the side of the road. All these cops, they had cop bootlickers that have channels that love the cops and say how wonderful they are, and they're saving us from all these bad citizens. And they're allowed to walk right up onto the cops, film everything. But as soon as the guys come to say something, be critical, no, stand over there. No, stand over there. No, stand over there. Here's a line here. Now there's a line there. No. And now we're arresting you because you walked down the wrong side of the road and we pushed you there. It's fucking beautiful in its ugliness.
That's in Canada?
No, here in Texas. This just happened like 3 days ago.
You mean here in Texas? You're in Texas?
No, this happened in Texas. But I'm going to come to fucking America this winter, and I'm going to fucking shame the shit out of all the slaves. I don't give a shit. Not the cops, the slaves. I'm going to congratulate the cops. I'm going to say thank you for being back, coming back to Papa, the British rule, coming back. I'm a Canadian. I'm here for you, officer. Thank you.
So this is what people always do because they've been brought up in outcome-based education camps, and they don't know that. The public school system is an outcome-based education camp that indoctrinates you to think a certain way. So you ask questions based on the end result, and then you reverse engineer backward what you're willing to do or not, instead of trying to find the will within you and surrendering in faith that you're going to do that will regardless of the outcome. See, one is a fear-based consciousness, one is a faith-based consciousness. One is doing God's will, one is doing your will, and your will is given to you by the folks who run this world. See? So if I'm pulled over and my DL is expired, will I be jailed? Probably just a ticket citation, right? I don't know. They don't know. There's everything in between. You'll get somebody who will say, you know what, I don't want to do the paperwork today. See ya. You'll get someone who say, how dare you be on these streets? I'm going to hit you with that and more. Whatever else I can dig up and find. This isn't a either or perspective. This is you come to a perspective of believing you know right from wrong, that it doesn't require these folks being a part of that situation, that the power is with the people, and that if you want that to become a reality, you're going to have to live into that. See? So on some level, if it's not the reality we live in, and that's the reality we know we're supposed to be living in, then you have to live into that in this time to create that reality more and more inside and outside of yourself. So it's not about going to policy, statute, and code. It's not even about citing Supreme Court decisions. I got 24 of them up here right now from wearechange.org. And then they'll just say, well, Paulie boy, for every 10 you pull up, you didn't read the whole thing and it's not a real decision. In there somewhere is something different. They all do that. You know, they'll say, okay, for every 10 you pull up, even if what you're saying is in there, there's 10 more saying something to the contrary, right? Well, that's the whole point of democracy, is you've given your power over contractually, unspoken social contract, for these folks in their corporate procedure and practice to make decisions for you. And because you as an individual or a man or woman won't show up everywhere in your life for you as you, made in the image of the Most High, they're going to dictate to everybody who and what you are, what's going to go on and what's not. That's just the function of governance here. So we can't really blame the corporatist fascist statists who are getting paid to be third-party impartial elements of the court if man or woman won't show up in its proper capacity, status, and standing and put the truth and the facts and their rights on record. Sorry. So, you know, you should be asking yourself, if you want to do outcome-based education questions, you should be asking, if I continue to renew my license, am I throwing my natural rights away, and does that make me a slave in the end of this? If I keep petitioning my servants for permission to do what I have a right to do, absent them interfering with that right, does that make me a slave? And I would contend the answer is yes, because you're petitioning your servants and service providers to allow you to engage in something that would ultimately be a right if it wasn't for someone somewhere trying to convince us all that we don't have any rights and that we only have a right to do as we're told, not as we perceive to be true and correct, right? And let's be clear, the reason that that's the name of the game on this planet is because most folks would prefer it that way. They'd prefer they not have to be accountable and responsible. They prefer to get the limited liability corporation. They prefer to do corrupt, shitty fucking business to profiteer and not have to be held accountable or responsible to what they're creating or what the effects of their creation are in this realm and spiritually. So most people just fucking love it. They go, what? I can get all this credit and do all these things and never have to be accountable and responsible or do good business or understand myself or the law of the land or really anything? Sign me up. You know? So again, that's the weakness ultimately is what it comes down to. The weakness of men and women has created hard times for all of us in fascism and statism because we refuse to take on the responsibility and accountability of liability. Right? They're great with the ability to lie. They're just not great with liability. You know?
It's like negotiating with a rapist. It's like, you know, can I just like blow you? Do you have to put it in my ass? Can I get away with just a hand job? Like, what's the best deal I can get here? It's like they're not willing to fight the rapist. They're just making deals with them.
Well, that's why I say all the world's pimping and hoe, and we just don't know it. It's essentially a pimp and hoe dynamic. Always has been, always will be. You know, so you know, the hoe at some point has to ask herself a question. If I don't step out of the boundaries that the pimp has put down for me to how to live, does that make me a hoe for the rest of my life? And the answer is usually yes, as far as I can tell. Pretty much the same dynamic, right? We're going to abuse you. We're going to beat on you. We're going to corrupt you. We're going to do coercion and duress, all to keep you safe, sweetie. So just follow the laws of pimping that I lay down to you. And of course, they change week to week because I'm just making this shit up as I go along. Long as you follow and do what I say, that's all that really matters. Don't go to asking questions. Don't go to pointing out the inconsistencies and the hypocrisy. Don't go to trying to get bigger than the program, right? That's how you get yourself caught up. No, that's how you get yourself freed from a delusion and illusion and disempowerment and degradation. Shout out to the folks who've been here for years, still projecting and hating on me with everything I gave you. This is what's so fascinating about you folks. You come here and try to hate on me or make fun of me with shit that I've told you. How does that make any sense? I let you in on it. I gave you your ammunition. You know, it doesn't bother me any. At the end of the day, there's worse things in life than being unbathed, if that's the presentment. Paul unbathed, which ironically, I just took a shower before this. Go ahead.
What does being unbathed have to do with it? Even if you smell like a fucking pig.
Yeah, I'm dirty. I'm filthy. I'm the reprobate. I'm the lowlife. I'm the untouchable. I got it. I got all that. You know, I appreciate that. Without you folks, I'd be nothing.
You know what I find interesting, Paul? So you look at this Oera Linda book, and I get the impression that it's a story of when things were good, like say in the solar system, and it's easier to be good or for things to be good, right? And then as you learn about their history, they documented their history. As you learn about it, you see how the corruption is slowly creeping in through the dialogue. It's not even like direct. It's almost like you could just see it, read between the lines, and how the corruption of this history is like slowly evolving. And it's probably because whatever's going on in them celestials in the sky, it becomes easier for corruption, right? It's the whole cycle of things, right? From good times to bad times, and the opportunities you get like in these bad times, right? To learn. But I also find like it's going to be interesting to see how it separates from the bad times to the good times again. Because I like through this history of this Oera Linda people, I'm able to see like how the corruption came in. But now I'm interested to see how the corruption goes away. And
well, that's the thing. We're essentially a part of it. You know, they'll say, what have you done for the cause lately? And it's like, I get that. And there's always something more to be a part of and do. But each one of these interactions now puts us on record for this is where we're at and this is where it goes, you know? So I think that we're all essentially part of that, you know, when we refuse to comply and cooperate, and not from a rebellious standpoint, from a standpoint of true self-care and self-respect, you know? So I think that interestingly enough is already happening, and how it's going to happen. One person at a time, one interaction at a time, one statute, policy, and code and bill that's rewritten at a time, because the people on the ground ain't going away and ain't changing their tune. You know, so this is a long game here. You know, we have to, JFK, thank you for being here. Another loser, failure, hater. Please hit the link and come on up if you have any questions, comments, concerns. If you just repeat the same crap year in and year out, I know you'll say I'm doing the same thing. The thing is, what I'm repeating is based in actual truth and experience with actual results. You're just saying stuff based on how it feels or what you want it to be or what you're taught it is. So there is a difference there. I'm looping and you're looping. One of us is chosen to loop to some extent in order to break the loop. The other's here to gaslight all the loop breakers that there's no point in choosing a different loop. That's you. Okay, so I'm not doing word salad. What I'm saying has meaning and purpose written into it, such as everything we experience here. It's not even possible to speak and express from the core of your beingness or talk about your experience and say something meaningless. It's not even possible. Right? Really, what you got there is a comprehension problem. So for the folks who constantly say I'm Dunning-Krugered out and I'm using word salad, they can't keep up. Their listeners, their ears can't keep up with what I'm saying and deduce the meaning and the purpose at the core of the experience, because they're not living it. They can't translate it. All right, let me continue this here, because I was asked by Brandon, and I've been at the point for the longest time where I don't care about Supreme Court decisions, and you can pull up 100 of them. And if there's one where someone else says something different and that's the ruling, then that's enough for me to know not to cite it. I don't even need to see that to know not to cite it, because we've already been over it 1,000 times. If you cite some other man's words and beliefs for where you derive your understanding, then you're already in dishonor, because you can't claim to be truly self-governing and have rights and then repeat what someone else said and their experience without your own firsthand knowledge. It's hearsay. So I'll give it to you. I'll give you a couple lines of it, but ultimately I don't use it. So what's the point of me even reading it other than for the slaves to go, oh, maybe this is a reality that does exist? Because that's how it works. A slave can't conceive or imagine of or experience a reality outside of what's told to them by someone they perceive in a position of authority. And that's damn sure not me. I'm just a trailer dwelling gorilla. I'm not part of the NIH, WHO. I don't have a little badge or a costume. So I couldn't possibly have any authority, right? And this is the game we play from the beginning till the end of time. Authority comes in the form of man made in the image of the Most High, and you folks ignore that to mistake the folks in clown costumes as true authorities. It couldn't be any sweeter. Couldn't be any more bittersweet. Exactly where we're meant to be. It's the greatest teaching test ever. Thompson versus Smith, American jurisprudence, constitutional law. The right of a citizen to travel upon the public highways and to transport his property thereon in the ordinary course of life and business is a common right which he has under the right to enjoy life, liberty, to acquire and possess property, and to pursue happiness and safety. It includes the right in doing so to use the ordinary and usual conveyances of the day, and under the existing modes of travel includes the right to drive a horse-drawn carriage or wagon thereon, or to operate an automobile thereon for usual and ordinary purposes of life and business. That doesn't exist, though. Okay? I'll read the Supreme Court decision. I'll read what would be spoken as common sense. Wouldn't matter who said it, at what time in history. It would resonate with people who could see, hear, and feel, and think, and know themselves, and understand law of the land and rights. Most folks will never be able to comprehend or incorporate that till it's already done and over, right? Again, we're back to the cliche. A patriot's cause is feared and scorned until it succeeds. And then everybody wants to join that cause because it costs nothing to be a patriot, right? So we're already at the tip of the spear to an extent, as Mr. Alex Jones used to say, pretending they were doing that. This is the real deal here, right? So, Thompson versus Smith, we went over that. Mills versus DC, the use of an automobile is a necessary adjunct to the earning of a livelihood in modern life, requires us, in the interest of realism, to conclude that the right to use an automobile on public highways partakes of the nature of a liberty within the meaning of the constitutional guarantees. Because this stuff's very difficult, right? You got a contract, they call it the Constitution, they say it's a protection of the basis of the law of the land and natural rights. And we can't still figure out if that includes having a gun to protect yourself and your property, moving your property around as you please, not being subject to having to pay your servants in order to use your own property. We're still arguing over this. You wonder why half the folks who signed these documents walked away from the table, because they already knew what was going to happen. Did you vote in 2024, Paul? No, I didn't vote. You know the answer to that. Why would I vote for two sides of the same coin that has never made this nation, this land, this people any more free or upheld any more of the law of the land? Why would I do that? So I could put myself spiritually on record as another Babylonian snake scum? Deceived in the garden out of their true power? No, well, why would I do that? So I get to go on record from the beginning till the end of time in this experience, in this body, saying, I've never cooperated. I've never complied. I've never asked my servants for permission to do what I do. I've been to court over and over again, and I'm still here talking. I got many dismissals along the way. So why would I vote so that someone else can take a corporate position and then supposedly represent me in that corporate endeavor, status, and standing in order to use acts, statutes, policy, and codes to supposedly make my life any better? It also proves that you're a selfish, greedy, worldly piece of garbage, because you would put someone you have no idea who they are and what their motivation is in a position of supposed power just so you could try to make your and your people's life better. And that's why it gets worse. You still can't figure out how the the spiritual simulation works here. Many of you still can't figure it out. That by virtue of the fact that you make these choices, you put yourself on the cosmic record as a disempowered, dishonorable, worldly slave, proving you're creating your own judgment. That's why everything keeps getting worse, because you all keep going on record as needing to be governed. And the only thing here that's going to govern you is the God of this world. This is archetypal, biblical, scriptural understanding. And really, it can be translated into a sort of clinical language as well. Psychological, sociological, anthropological, clinical language and understanding. So because you have no self-care and self-worth, because you have no purpose within you, no meaning, no principles, no true value, no understanding, no vision, you keep giving the opportunity for that over for these folks to allow you to put yourself in judgment to prove you cannot have rights and that the law will not be upheld. But what will be enforced is policy, statute, and code, because you're the devil's child and you've bought into the lie. From the beginning of time till the end of time, you folks have bought into the lie that somehow, some way, by paying into the beast system, by voting for its participants, by waving a flag and saying my team on both sides and blaming the other side for what you're both creating, that somehow, some way it's going to get better. And the only thing promised every time spiritually is it's going to get worse now. Okay, you'll get it at some point. Lifetime after lifetime, you'll get it at some point. See, I love chat interactions. These folks need me, whether they're aware of it or not. All right, no response so far. We'll wait on that one. Is your end game saving humanity? No, it's not possible for one being to save humanity. This is why the story of Jesus is another form of disempowerment, because it puts the onus, the accountability, the responsibility on someone else who's come and yet to come again, rather than where it belongs, on all the participants here. So no, I'm not here to be another misunderstanding and mistranslation of the original Jesus story, where a prophet who was chosen by God showed up at a certain time in history to remind the people of what their obligations are, their responsibilities are, what accountability is, and what true spiritual freedom is in, but not of the world. So similar story, similar idea. I'm here as the same representation of a similar idea and story. But just like that being, no, I'm not here to be idol worshipped and to be held up on a pillar as the solution to humanity's problems. Right? I'm an expression of the human condition, and either or the problem or the solution, right? And or both. So let's be clear about that. Give Caesar what is Caesar's. Not interested in your catch-all phrases that absolve you of accountability, responsibility from a text that was translated and retranslated and mistranslated and given to folks like you so that you could do little to nothing, idol worship on the being in there who was given to you by the Roman Empire, and then misunderstand and mistranslate all the words to mean you can just be a slave and do little to nothing here and everything's going to be okay. And on the highest level, that may be true, right? You can do whatever you want to do here, choose however you want. When you leave this material form and you move on to the next experience, does it really matter? No, of course not. But while you're here on some level, obviously we have choice and there's cause and effect. So just keep running around the internet, watching me, people like me, be a part of an experience, co-create an outcome that's resolute, solutions oriented, gets results, and keep claiming that we're all supposed to just do nothing, be nothing, idol worship some being who told us greater things than I you shall do, and render unto Caesar's what is his, as if you understand what was being put forth there, when you obviously don't. I can claim that I do, but I don't need to, because I understand who and what I am, what I'm doing at this time, and why it matters, why it's valuable, why it's powerful, why it's based in cause and effect, and why it's solutions oriented, and why the powers that shouldn't be, a lot of folks will say, I'll say there's exactly where they're supposed to be, why the powers that shouldn't be are spinning in circles and making websites and putting out articles to try to dissuade people from doing this. Why do you think that is? Because they've recognized how fucking powerful it is and how their game is over once we do it. Okay. So again, just understand the difference between us. I'm on an actual walk here. I'm far from perfect. I'm subject to fear and insecurity at times. Pushes me to find faith, to do the next right thing, to resolve the problems I and therefore you face. And you have the same journey and opportunity. Just sitting around citing a text from 2,000 years ago that's been plagiarized and bastardized and censored and all the rest of it, for where you get your justification to do and be and create little to nothing, have at it, enjoy it. See, but that's not really what's going on here. You know at the core of your beingness, you have to do and be more. You don't want to do it because you're too cowardly and lazy. So you want to demean and devalue what I'm doing using a 2,000-year-old text and cherry picking it so that none of us have to be accountable and responsible and integral on this journey and this walk. So thank you for being a self-deceiver and attempting to deceive me, but it's not taking at this time. It's not washing, right? This is why you folks sit in a chat nameless and faceless. If you had any balls or wherewithal or Holy Spirit on you or in you, you'd be up here to put forth your commentary without having to sit in a chat nameless and faceless and throw out these one-liners. You'd speak whatever it is, who and what you are proudly. You'd do your service, right? You'd walk diligently and you would save souls, but you're not willing to do that because you don't really believe in what you're putting forth in the chat. If you did, you'd be just like me doing what I do the way that I do it. And what is right and wrong? Who decides? I get to decide what's right and wrong for me as long as I don't cause loss, injury, and harm to anybody else. Wake up call. Hello. Who gets to decide? I've shown you and told you. I've not only told you, I've shown you who gets to decide. I do. I get to decide, if not short term, long term, what I'm going to do and not do and manifest a result along with the co-creative spirit or the force or the experience you call God. So ultimately, God makes that decision. It starts with the beingness, starts with the observer and the choice maker. So if no man or woman could come forth and show a valid, verified claim that I've caused loss, injury, or harm, or interfered with property, or have been a direct threat to the public, I get to decide, and no one else gets to decide for me. That's the beauty of living on America. It used to be called a free land. This isn't that difficult, folks. Is not that difficult. Very testing and challenging for a whole generation who's been mind and heart controlled. You know, still has the strings on them like Pinocchio. I get it. Let's see what Lewis has to say. You got anything, Lewis, Brian O'Shea? I'll throw the link in case folks want to come up and quote the Bible to me. Because they're such experts. Go ahead.
Distracted. Fucking OTW is such a little weasel, dude.
You can't get
it together. Go there and give him the fucking business, dude. Once and for all, I'll be like, just cut that motherfucker off, dude. He's such a fucking weasel. It's fucking creepy the way he flip-flops, dude. It's fucking creepy as hell, dude.
Here's the beauty of it, that Paul Unslaved or any other commentator or co-creator doesn't have to give anyone the business. The universe is already taking care of that for all of us. Like saying someone's got to come over here and give me the business. They didn't. I almost killed myself with obesity. Job done. You know?
That's what I'm saying, bro. It's like the kid is so done without you there, dude. He just makes mistake after mistake when you're not there. He just fucking. Hey, I guess it doesn't matter, dude. He's nothing good is gonna come of whatever the fuck he's doing. Just give it time and let him fucking implode and maybe rebuild or something, dude. It's just I don't know why it fucking annoys me so much. I guess it's similar to like snafu. Like when I see people that can pull it together and they're just like choosing not to, it kind of fucking enrages me, dude. Like,
right, I get that, but we have to then step back from that experience to recognize that all selves are a reflection of self, and that anything he or I or anyone else is guilty of, we're all guilty of to some extent. If anything, it's just different levels. So, you know, you can't really call something out or you know, you can use discernment and speak about the similarities and the differences, but you can't really call something out and not become highly aware that we're subject to the same dynamic to some extent. You know, again, does it feel good to feel good, as Mr. Talcott says? Yes. Is love and care a great thing? Absolutely. Is being centered and balanced, and open-minded and open-hearted and loving and all those things a great thing? Yeah. Not at the whim of accountability and responsibility, because one goes with the other. Part of being truly loving and caring and accountable, part of being truly loving and caring is being accountable and responsible and generating the highest good for yourself and those around you. So am I at all the perfection of that? No. And you see how ultimately, it's perceived on these panels. Accountability and responsibility has to be equated with overreach of boundaries. You're being mean. You're not being nice, kind, and polite. So, yeah, man. I mean, I get it to a certain extent, and I've also kind of realized more that I'm not responsible and accountable for any of these beings. And if I am, it's to make myself as good as I can be and do what I need to do and inspire indirectly. Because beyond that, you just wind up looking like the control freak asshole who's trying to bully people into being a version of you that isn't even complete, because you're still working on you and completing within yourself and in life. So all I have to know at a certain point, just like with the rights and freedom and the whole thing, is what I'm going to do and be a part of and what I'm not. I just let everybody else do and be whatever they're going to do and be a part of as much as I can. There's really no point otherwise.
That's like how like a God's love would be, right? Kind of let you figure it out, sort of it type of thing. Makes sense.
Everyone has free choice here, and they're going to do what they believe is the best thing to do until their experience shows them it's not. They're either going to change it at that point or they're not. Things are going to get better or they're going to get worse. And again, it comes down to the metric. OTW and others think that because you have viewers here, it's been a good day. Because somebody pays you, it's been a good day. I can get on board with that part-time, but that's not the whole of the story. If your numbers are up and your money's up for you being a slave, right, and engaging in gossip and drama, and entertaining haters and loser failures and all the rest of it, as folks have said in the past, right? Is it really a good day? No, you have to decide that. It's not even my decision to make, right? At each moment in that decision and experience, the content creator, the host, has to decide, because they'll say the same thing to me back. And I can't always disagree. Again, this is where they'll say I'm being egotistical and arrogant, because barring my health problems recently, which I created, so I'm accountable and responsible for that. Beyond that, which is the most important thing, really, I would rather be me at some places sometimes doing what I'm doing with the people I'm involved in than be these other folks. That's not an arrogant, egotistical, prideful state of beingness. That's just a recognition of when you do on some level what you're supposed to do and formed to do, and you have a greater purpose here, you tend to be a bit more fulfilled, right? Or just excited about what life has to offer. So that's not even like a judgment. That's just a preference or not. I prefer to be able to say that myself and Jennifer and others around me are taking part in an experience here right now that is meant for all of us and is part of a change in our world and the world that we live in. I prefer to say that. I prefer to be a part of that than to just say, I'm coming online every day to get my numbers up and to get money, and hopefully I get contributions and support. And I'm going to talk about a bunch of other people online who I don't respect, who aren't involved in doing and being or having anything of any kind of worth or value at the end of the day. Doesn't mean that all these people at their core aren't valuable or worthy. They obviously haven't decided that for themselves. It's not for me to make that decision. Right? I'm still in the process of realizing more and more what aspects of me are valuable and worthy, and nurturing that and feeding that to become what I'm meant to be, to avoid accepting less for myself, right? So it's not about being better than anybody. It's just doing better than we did yesterday or last year or, 5 years ago. It's a me versus me dynamic. See, Brian O'Shea, how do you grade success, Paul? I think it's a little bit of all the things I've mentioned and no thing at all. In the sense of you can't really point to people, places, and things to substantiate completely your success. It has to start from within and end within. So I would say if you're doing what you're meant to do on some level, I don't know if we can know completely, but if you're engaged in a purpose and you're getting certain results, and you have everything you need and then some, I think when all those things start to come into view, you can say that you're touching success on some level. I think when you're inspired or inspiring other people, you're making a change. You're becoming more and more aware of yourself and different dynamics as time goes on. And if you can throw into that mix that somehow, some way, God has blessed you with certain level of value to do what you do, that is inspiring and making a change, and that's a win-win-win. So again, there's levels to every metric. You got 1 billion views and $1 billion today, but you had to be a part of today and for the rest of your life here something that you don't respect or think is honorable or redeemable. Is it worth it? Hence the idea of selling your soul. So the individual who says, yeah, I'm just in it for 1 billion views for some notoriety and to get some money. Hell yeah, it's worth it. Well, then they're successful in their mind, for them, to them, not for me, not to me. And then you can always use the metric at the end of the day. Are they still in slavery and genocide? Are they still cowardly? Are they still living in denial and delusion? Are they disempowered? Well, then what difference does it make how much money and views they have? Wes Watson's a great example. They all said he was my hero. He was somebody who I was entertained by because what he spoke was a part of an experience I was seeing or having that he got the same place I and others got it from, ancient wisdom and a direct experience. What difference does it make at the end of the day if Wes Watson has $1 billion and 1 billion views, if when the cops arrest him, he cries and begs, calls his mama, makes excuses, embarrasses himself, has no resolutions, gets no results, has to pay another man to talk for him? In my world, to me, for others, in this world, not successful. So again, they used to call it fuck you money. The whole point of fuck you money is to be able to say fuck you and not give a fuck. So on some level, that's success. When you got everything you need and then some, when you're living within your means that God and the people have provided and you're serving something outside of yourself to some conclusion and resolution with results, oh yeah, that's success. You know who and what you are and what you're not. You got your boundaries. You're keeping them intact regardless of what happens to you, and you're standing for something here. So in my world and in the world, as far as I'm concerned, from where I see it, you ain't got that. You ain't got nothing. All the rest of the shit that everybody's prioritizing is just extras, right? That's the cherry on top. That's the last piece of success. Like I've said many times, they say first you get the money, then you get the power, then you get the respect. I say first you get the self-respect and the respect for truth and God, right? Then you get introduced to a certain level of true power. Then you get introduced to contributions and support in the form of money or value coming in because the God in you sees the God in the people. The God in the people sees the God in you. And if you're bringing them something that is solutions oriented, then that's service. If you're bringing them entertaining results with that service, that's still double service. It's entertainment, right? So for me, to me, in my world and in the world, that's success. When you have all of those things touched upon, right? When to some extent you and the people in your life respect you, and they see the purpose and meaning and value and why you're here and what you're a part of, the bigger picture. I think part of success too, which oftentimes goes overlooked, is being able to step back from all that and be at peace with who and what you are. One follows the other, it would seem. So, beyond the power and the value and the co-creativity and the results and all that is a place of peace, some level of contentment and through fulfillment, through actualization, through realization. So that's an aspect of success as well. To be able to sit back somewhere and feel good about yourself and the life that you're living, what you've done, and what is yet to be done. Success is definitely subjective, in my opinion. It is and it isn't. I think most things are this and that. I think there's an objective sort of criteria, and then there's a subjective experience of that or with that. If that makes sense. So I think that folks oftentimes don't like that idea. And because we don't like that idea, it's probably more true. So I don't think anybody can sit anywhere in any endeavor and say, I don't have anything or anyone, and I can't be trusted, and I'm not responsible and accountable, and I'm not disciplined where I could be, and I don't show up for myself and others to create results. I don't see how you could claim that you're successful. The word success is in successful, full of succession. That means you're on a movement, you're on a journey, you're making progress, you're learning more, you're growing more, you're co-creating more. You're being more, you're having more. Sometimes less is more, right? But we like to play this game that feels good to say, well, I spend 40 hours a week doing this. No one barely takes any note of it. No one can really do anything with it. It might be mildly entertaining, but there's no real power and value there. And I'm not making a living doing it. And I don't respect myself for it, and other people don't respect me, and I'm not leading, and I'm not co-creative in my results. How are you going to claim to be successful? You can say that, right? And on some level, that's true. But I think on another level, there's an objective set of standards to a certain extent. So you can define what that is for you. But living in the world, even if we're not of it, is going to reveal more of the story. I think one of the biggest parts of that people don't want to hear, that I didn't like for the most part myself, and there's still a part of me that may not like it, but I've accepted it. Money, non-money is part of that process. I don't care where you go. We've been over this many times. If you're not going to be a monk and live out in the woods, and even if you are, you still got to build everything to have everything. And if you ain't going to build it, then you got to buy it / trade pieces of paper to get it, or products or services, right? Or whatever. So I think that's part of the dynamic of being successful. You have everything you need and then some. Can you live within your means? Do you have recurring forms of value and relationships in your life? Can you trust yourself to be dependable enough to get it done and care for yourself and others? And vice versa. I think the folks involved with you. I think it's all part of a bigger picture. You never know when you're entertaining angels. Right. And I guess you're never quite sure if they're fallen angels or not. So I get that. We're another one-liner throwaway from the scripture. We never know when we're entertaining angels. Well, then if we're entertaining angels and their whole experience doesn't come down to just a constant test for us and how to receive them, why would an angel not be able to have everything that they want or need here? So, I mean, who's the being who's going to step up and say, I'm an angel and you should entertain me in a different way than you would everybody else because I have less and need more? Your thoughts, Lewis, Brian O'Shea, on this idea that we could be in the world and not of it, still have to live here and work here, and be a part of the situation and circumstance to some extent. We're going down the wizard Talcott road, where folks are so godly and so angelic, they don't need to work or co-create something or give away something or produce something to have value, but they're always there with their hand out, in need of whatever others have and willing to take it to better their own lives. We can't be that hypocritical. So Thoughts, Lewis? Brian O'Shea, am I missing the mark here? Did I go too lowly and worldly? Talking about what you put in is what you get back. Yes, you're still retarded. Yeah,
I don't know why it looks like I'm not here. I don't know what the fuck's going on.
You're here.
You can see me?
Yes, I can see. Unfortunately.
Fuck off. How come I only see you and Brian?
You got to full screen it. He's on portrait mode.
So let me ask you this, right? Because there's again a fine line here for Mr. JFK in chat. If you're a man and you are dealing with a woman and you have a family, so to speak, you're experiencing a family because you can never really have it, and you can't meet the basic needs for yourself and your household and your life. Is that success? If your woman and child look at you and go, you're not doing and being all you can do and be to create so we can be and have more here, and kind of live life on life's terms. Is that really successful to you? You feel successful at that point? Or maybe there's something I'm missing. Like if you don't get up and go somewhere throughout your weeks, throughout your months, if you don't create something, if you don't build something, if you don't serve something, you just get value handed to you, and you're not being a part of changing something or serving something or creating something. That feels successful to you? Because they're creating that world as we speak right now where you could just sit around, do and be nothing. If you follow the system and you feel good about it, then you'll be successful because they'll give you or provide for you everything that you want or need. So is that really true success for you? Would we actually look to other men and other beings and say that's a successful being, regardless of what you've chosen for yourself? Like, is that the inherent experience here to some extent, like just based in common sense? Timmy's here now. Let's see what Timmy.
Hello. I heard you guys talking about money, not money. Hello. I wanted to come up. Yeah, man. It seems like a lot of folks are just using it as an excuse. Oh, I don't go and chase money or fiat, and then what? They go to all spirit route. Guys. By the way, some folks might say just like deleting yourself is the all spirit route. Also, if you want to just check up on out of here,
it is.
Because if this is you just go 100% spirit. You're just a dead weight. You're not going to participate. And these are not the folks that are like going to be like, hey, like I'll help you, like chop that tree down. Sure, because they don't have an axe. They're tired because they haven't eaten. They live in their car, so they haven't slept well. Like you can't perform.
Don't be pointing at Brian O'Shea down there, right? He's subjectively successful today. That's how he's choosing to see it.
Okay,
Come on my trailer.
There's some of that.
Listen, again, this is the reality of it, right? If I take someone in the middle of nowhere who doesn't work a job, they're going to have to work the land. If they're there long enough working that land and creating something, Vice or someone else is going to come find them to talk to them about how successful they are in what they do. Because they have everything they need and then some. Because they're a source of inspiration and light. They're a source of co-creation and results. I don't care what it is. If you are an Amish person in the middle of nowhere who gets up every day early, goes to bed early, spends your days doing your work, working the land, providing for yourself and whatever extends off of you, being as accountable and responsible, at some point, the guy from Wall Street in the business suit is going to show up to talk to you about how successful you are, and a whole bunch of opportunities are going to show up with that and contributions. So it's almost impossible to not become objectively successful if you actually do what you're meant to do and do what's right and do it every day or often enough that it makes an impression. Especially if you love what you're doing and you're good at it. This is what's so laughable. You'll tell me about success is all subjective when there's an objective standard and an objective experience that happens for everybody who does the objective work subjectively. I'm an example of it. A whole bunch of people showed up to my living room essentially because at some point in time, what I was doing was making waves because it was important and valuable and I was somewhat good at it and it needed to be done. Not because I liked it, not because it was easy, right? Precisely because of the opposite, right? So whether it's farming on the land, doing legal lawful, getting arrested, at some point an objective experience is going to come along and knock on your subjective door and say, you put the time, energy, attention, and the work in, and here's an opportunity. That's just the way I've been experiencing. I don't care what field it is. You can sit in your fucking garage all day, every day, and build something. And if you do it well enough, and it inspires other people and yourself, and you love it and you're good at it, and it solves a problem, someone's showing up at your door at some point, if they're aware of it, to give you your congratulations. Hi, meet success. It's good to meet you. I was doing this so long because I love to do it and need to do it. I don't even know what that means. Right? By the time the success shows up to verify what you've already validated internally, it doesn't even much matter. It's nice. You know, it's more opportunities. But ultimately, that being was going to do it no matter what anyway. That's why they're successful. Because they do it when no one shows up till no one can ignore it. That's sort of the untold story here, right? You know, every being who is presently objectively successful had 5 to 10 years of working in the middle of nowhere with nobody, pushing their own limits and other limits, going outside the box beyond what was even expected of them with no guarantees, right? Then one day someone shows up on the world stage in quotes and they go, look at this guy. He just got success. He's successful because they gave it to him, right? The overnight success story. No, most of those guys were toiling away, working away, putting their time, energy, attention in with no guarantees, sacrificing, doing the work, passing or moving through the tests and challenges to where they went from nobody watching and listening to most people can't ignore it for some period of time, right? I don't even care if you're a flash in the pan. So I don't agree with you. Success is not completely subjective. You can't define it on your own and leave it at that. So much so it can be proven by an objective experience, by anybody in any field working a certain way or living a certain way. Shin Yen He was in the middle of the forest somewhere growing grapes and doing tea ceremony and practicing his planking as a monk. Some way, somehow, someone came to find him to show up to hear what he's got to say because objectively he's successful at what he does. And he inspires others to do and be and have the same.
Yeah,
right?
he doesn't give a fuck if anybody ever came because he was just doing that because that's what he wanted to fucking do and he was good at it. Like, it's both of those things. He was content on his own. He didn't need a fucking crowd to laugh at his stupid jokes, or he didn't need a crowd to like see him doing his planking and like get recognition, recognition, right? He already did the cognition within himself. So, you know, he already became good at it. Didn't need anybody else to tell him nothing.
Right. The work is the reward. I can accept that. And then there's recognition. I don't think there's anybody in any realm who is good at something and puts their all into it at times and gets results who doesn't also get recognition. If you're not getting that, it's probably because you're not doing and being that. So I'm not denying what you're saying completely. It's that you seem to want to pigeonhole the whole experience to one perspective instead of seeing the bigger picture and how it's all interrelated. So, like, I don't do rights, freedom, principles, spiritual faith, legal and lawful because it's been so marketable and profitable from the beginning. I do it because beyond the work, the test, and the challenge is the reward. I get to be who and what I'm meant to be, actualize and realize. I get to find the true power in life. At some point, that has to be recognized if it's really an experience you're having. I guess it doesn't have to be, but typically it is. All right, let's move on here. We're kind of out there in the Talcottian sort of phenomena here. Success is completely subjective, and if nobody ever shows up with any kind of discernment and results to recognize you and what you've done and your achievements, then it's still happening. It just hasn't been recognized. Like typically that's not the case. And again, that also provides the opportunity for a long game experience where it's never really over. So you always kind of have more opportunity. But yeah, I'm really not buying into that. I really have started more and more to buy into God helps those who help themselves. And if you do something long enough and get good enough at it and other people know about it, at some point you will get recognized. You will get your recognition. I don't care if it's at court or outside of court, the same dynamic applies. So for
Also,
other
these
folks, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, also, these folks never will define what they actually subjectively mean is their success. They're just saying, like, it's just like, well, what's your subjective view? Like, what is your life of succession? Where have you been and gone and challenges you've gone through? And then where are you at now? And where are you going, in succession that the success is? Or are you just gaslighting yourself and just copping out? And you just gave up 20 years ago and you don't want to admit that because that's a lot harder to admit that. Yeah.
Lewis, Brian O'Shea, anyone before you move on here? We're already coming up on 2 hours, man. It's flying.
Success is lots of money, lots of pussy. Like, I mean, what else is there?
If that were the case, my father wouldn't be coming to this broadcast so often when he did, looking for time, energy, and attention. Resolution indirectly. He never was willing to directly look for it. I appreciate that. I understand where you're coming from with that. It's a bit tongue-in-cheek. I think all of us, especially men, have that aspect of ourselves from in the flesh, so to speak. But I think that we all know beyond that worldly success is a more otherworldly, truer sense of success or experience of success. So not all money is good money. Not all pussy is good pussy. This is what we learn here.
I think overall, most people today, without them knowing it, have an underlying sense of being enslaved without knowing they're enslaved, but they feel it at their core level, but they just ignore it. So they can't even define what success for them is. Anything that they can get out of this life to them is some sort of success, whether it's money.
Well, ask them. JFK, you're down there. Would you come up? Number one, I already asked you. Apparently you're not, so you're seemingly not as confident in yourself and what you're saying. But beyond that, could you give me the written form of what success is? Because they'll have no problem asking me and then getting me to define it and then trying to find fault or a hole within my presentment. And I'm okay with that. That keeps me sharp and on the ball to some extent, or keeps me reflective and introspective. But when do you guys choose a line in the sand? When do you stand in your purpose and meaning? When do you express that fully and communicate it? I mean, that's an aspect of success, I would think.
I got somebody that wait, Luke. I got Bear Drew down here. Bear Drew's been a little niggling, little like Nancy for like 2 years now. He's been Timmy, you suck, and probably gaslighting yourself. So I just said something out to the ether, and it resonated maybe something with you. Hey, you're probably gaslighting yourself. So you're another subjective success guy. I know you're still working a job and you're like 65. I mean, come on, let's go. What's your subjective success? Because I think
Timmy,
I think you
of
boomer
the
folks.
size of your nose, Timmy. It's because you have a bigger nose, and
I don't know, maybe
he's got a little tiny one, and he wants a big one. Come on, Bear Drew, it's okay.
I'm agreeing with you. Okay, all right. Well. Anyway, what's your subjective success? still interested because I know you kind of bitch about still working though. So
I kind of like this answer. See, when JFK is not being bitter and passive aggressive, I don't think we disagree on much. And I think what we do disagree on is just a matter of this or that perspective. But I can accept that the goalpost constantly moves when it comes to my personal success. And I can agree with that in the sense of you're doing what's apparent to you, what makes sense. As we move down that path, the elements and the force may show us something that may need to be changed, seemingly, or a different direction to be taken. So I guess he's riding completely on this subjective idea, the universal experience. We can't get an objective description, some kind of objective description or generalization about what is success to some extent for the being. But again, I don't necessarily disagree with you. I think that each being has certain things that come natural to them. If you want to use it that, not nature, nurture. And we all may have the same things that we need to work on, maybe at different times. But usually it would seem to me that overall, the overarching themes remain the same. Like responsibility, accountability, discipline, co-creation, will, they're overarching themes for the human experience. So I think, yes, subjectively, there's many paths to the top of the mountain. There's only one top of the mountain, so to speak. So I'd be interested in hearing more about, on that subjective path, what objective signs and symbols and experiences are you looking for or having that confer success for you? And I would contend that most likely those benchmarks, those milestones, are going to be the same pretty much for everyone to some extent. Again, I've never met anybody who was so loving and caring and spiritually awakened and enlightened that they didn't need to eat or get water or have shelter, or take care of animals or grow plants. So, I mean, maybe that being does exist, but I haven't met him on the panels yet. They all seem to need the same things, right? Attention, some level of socialization, co-creation, some level of worldly value to get the things that they want or need, among other sort of elements of the experience. Success in the past has been overcoming my failures. I can accept that. Wouldn't you say on some level, I'm always a work in progress? I got that. You're very humble. You're very meek. You have the humility thing going on. So success in the past has been overcoming my failures. Don't you think on an objective level, human condition sort of reveals to us that maybe all of us to some extent have the same failures and overcoming process? Then what are we overcoming to get to? Right? So I would say, like, in everybody's experience, I'll speak for me, I'll keep it in the eye. I don't like working. Oftentimes in my life, I'm very Talcottian. I don't want to work. I'd rather smoke dope and hang around and do whatever I want with my time, however unproductive that is. But by recognizing it's unproductive, by recognizing that I'm usually better off when I am working for myself and the results, I can overcome my laziness and procrastination to admit that objectively I'm better off working or serving something and being productive than I am just laying in bed all day, regardless of whether I like that or want that or not. So I'd say that's a common theme on these panels, if not in life, that we overcome our own personal failures that seem personal, but upon reflection reveal a greater human condition, an objective set of standards for what failure and success looks and feels like. We're back to discipline and reliability and accountability and responsibility and co-creativity. Because you're not separate, you're not special, you're not different. This is where you folks say I'm egotistical, but that's you. Because you think we're going to live in a universe here as one expression of I am that am, and somehow everyone's going to have their own conditions for what success is objectively. Yeah, no. And it's easily proven. It's easily proven through our experiences.
I think it's funny when some of these guys are very soft, and then they think that me or you is like kind of yelling at them and scolding them. But like, I think that's just because we're like, we do that internally for ourselves, right? So we're just like, hey, I have to keep myself accountable and disciplined. So like, you're almost like, even the intro, you're like you became your own father for yourself. and you discipline yourself when you need to give yourself that pep talk and just do what needs to be done next. I feel like there's a lot of these folks that are kind of like the new agey kind of Talcottian, soft. I'm still growing. Give me time. I've got to conquer my dark shadow. It's going to take me 10 years. And all their spiritual teachers are like old ladies that don't have their shit together either. And they're just way too soft on themselves. And then like a guy like Jeff Pizer will come here and, I'm just here. Oh, can you guys stop it? Please be more nice. And then we're like, what the fuck is wrong with you, man? Can you fucking grow up? And then you're just mad. Why are you so mad? You're so egoic. Ooh.
Well, it's just another masculine and feminine imbalance, right? And I'm not arguing that I haven't at times played the reverse role in that sort of experience, where I go extreme masculinity almost to a toxic level to offset the toxic femininity these folks show up here with. But somewhere in the middle ground, the middle way, is the way to the way. You know, so it's like this and that. Like, okay, be at peace, surrender in faith. You know, feel the I am presence and how that's powerful and valuable inherently, and then take that inspiration to do and be and create to have an experience. This and that. It's a balancing or a blending of the masculine and feminine sort of archetypal aspects of self. And oftentimes, you know, through the experience of one reflecting the other, we get caught in the extreme polarity of that. You know? So I think more recently, especially, I've been conscious and aware and more willful to try to experience and embody that middle way, or the blending of the masculine and feminine. So yeah, I don't throw out anything that being is saying or putting forth. I'm just saying it's this and that. It's not a choice between this or that.
Mushrooms.
Weird
Mushrooms
people.
are freedom. Do lots of mushrooms and you'll be spiritually free.
Brian, this is your viewers, man. What's up with your viewers?
There's no imbalance. It's just women getting in your head to think it's an imbalance. We are fucking men. Nothing is wrong with us. There doesn't have to be something wrong with us to admit that everything's not right with us. That makes sense. So I think there's something to be said for what you're putting forth, and there may be a time and a place when that's correct and true. There also may be experiences where the feminine polarity has a job to do in your life, which is to bring more clarity and acceptance for who and what you are, and inspire you to do and be more here on a deeper level, right? And a more holistic experience. So I'm not denying what you're saying is true some places and sometimes. Also, we have a tendency, it would seem at times, to say, that's just women trying to remake us in their own image when they're made in the image of the Most High, just like we are, and they may be testing and challenging us to see if we're actually living into that, or if we're just proclaiming some space of power and control and value and success without actually living up to that, you know? So I think there's kind of a fine line there between the one dynamic and the other, and you have to be aware enough and honest enough with yourself and others to know the difference. So, you know, you got a lot of these folks like Fresh and Fit, they'll bring these 10 goofy hoes on and then go, well, we're not them, so we're complete successful men because we have jobs and we have money. We have a certain level of notoriety. Meanwhile, they're cowardly, statist, collectivist slaves. So there's no difference between them in the Babylonian sense. May come to find out if you've had a little bit more self-love or self-care, acceptance for who and what you are at the core level, you wouldn't buy into so many of the concepts that we buy into. So, you know, I think that we have to be kind of careful to not throw the baby out with the bathwater, or the woman out with the woman water, whatever the phrase would be, right?
Sorry, if I could just add in, Paul, this, in my opinion, is also freedom. I'm not trying to be, you know, I'm dead serious. This is freedom, right? Because on some level, I mean, I know you're trying to do it in your way, whatever. I don't agree with what the direction you're going, but it's your way and you're trying to do it, and that's good. But in the end, that's a big part of freedom, in my view, right?
I agree with you, Lewis, but I want to continue on this engagement because this guy's going full masculine tard. And this is just like laughable and funny to me, like as if men throughout the ages are all fit to be kings because they have genitalia. They haven't been, they're not. Just proclaiming in a generalized sense that women are followers and that men are inherently in charge. That's not a true statement. If it is a true statement, where's your responsibility and accountability? Right? See, this is what you guys want to do. You want to use like some generalized title and standing that is given you by default to confer authority and power and value. When I ask you for how you live that and what the results of that are, you're going to have little to nothing. And at some point in the chain of title and delegation of authority, some other man is telling you what to do and be. So by your logic, you're a hoe because the women are hoes and they're just here to follow. And if you're following other males, that makes you a woman by definition. Simply having male genitalia doesn't confer power and authority and true value. Right? So I'll ask the same question to you that I will the fresh and fit guys. Where are you leading women? Because you'll say you're women. You don't have women. You're experiencing women till you're not. Till they get over your crap and your perspective and your delusion and denial and your false power games and say, you know what, I'm going to go date this simp over here because you're toxic masculine and that's turning me off. So I'm going to go toxic feminine and just cycle, right? That's what the unaware female will do throughout her life cycle from toxic alpha wannabe to toxic simper. So you're one expression of the two sides of that dualistic dynamic because you guys just want inherent power and value and status and title. But when I ask you who you are and how you live in the world, that denotes that with a woman experiencing you, you'll have nothing but money and a corporate position to point to. See? So if women are truly followers and men are in charge, that explains why the world is worse off than ever, because you've been leading yourselves and your women into statism, fascism, collectivism, and slavery. Then you want to sit here and try to refer to that dynamic as if there's some inherent power and value for you or men in general. There's not. There's more responsibility and accountability, which you didn't take, so you don't get to reap the benefits and rewards of being titled what you're not living up to. Right? So again, I'll ask it like I always do with all of you folks. Show it to me, don't tell it to me. Because this is what you do with your women, right? Men want to see it, women want to hear it. You're so used to saying this crap around goofy broads who don't call you on it, right? Either they're toxic feminine and don't want a man to lead, or they're toxic in the sense that they'll let any man lead without discerning whether or not he's got the qualifications for that or not. Because there's going to be times in your relationship where you don't know where you need to go next and what you need to do and be. To pretend you do that's fake pimping, right? That's a disservice. So there's going to be times in the dynamic where everyone's got to go to God and go within, because we may not know who and what we are completely or what to do next. To try to convince women that as men we do is deception, is denial, is delusion. You should have no problem in actualized, realized, confident state of beingness, whether you're okay with not being okay or not. You should have no problem turning to your woman and saying, listen, I don't know. I don't have answers. We're going to have to go to God about this, and we're going to have to live a little bit more to get more experience and understanding. Pretending you have all the answers and you're always fit to lead when majority of the time you're not is a disservice to yourself and the woman you're dealing with, and it's going to be a reason why she's going to trust you and all men a little bit less. She's going to submit to you and all men a little bit less, because she's got a stack of bozos who either want her to make all the decisions or act like they're going to make all the decisions and not know who and what they are, where they're going, but pretend they do. All right? So there's always a middle ground, middle way here, based in the truth, based in good faith and honor, what can be shown and experienced, versus what we're deluding ourselves and living in denial to claim that it is. If that makes sense. No, we lost our way of living and utilize a 9 to 5 and have money to make our lives survivable. If man can provide, a real woman will follow. You missed the point of what follow is. Right. And I'm asking you, what is providing? Because you, toxic masculine in the world and of it, statist, corporatist, fascist, inauthentic corporate male slaves, always want to point to your corporate position and your money and ability to provide physically for why a woman should follow you. Doesn't make any sense. For everything you can provide physically, there's a bigger and better man who come take it. Should she follow him? What are you providing mentally, emotionally, spiritually? What do you?
I didn't think that far.
Yeah, I didn't think that far ahead. Right. By your logic, women then wind up exactly where they're winding up, in the arms of a fake pimp who, because they have things and can provide, are men of high value. We see now, we just went from one dynamic with Mr. JFK right to the other side, right? Where he'll claim being successful or having value has nothing to do with money. Then we go to the other side where this guy claims it's all that it is. If I have money and I can provide, well, then I'm a real man and you should follow. Where's the middle ground on this stuff? So if you're an inauthentic, corporatist, fascist, collectivist male who goes along to get along and follows the statute, policy, and code and doesn't adhere to the God within and encourage a woman you're dealing with to do the same, you're not fit to lead. Because really leading is staying behind to get ahead at times. Leading is sacrificing. Leading is doing without. Leading is having to choose doing what's true and what's right over what's profitable at times. So I don't see how you males can claim you're actually leading with your women when your women just look at you and experience you and then come to the conclusion they believe this is what a real man is, and then they have to see the rest of the story and the picture. Just having things and being able to provide doesn't make you a leader, doesn't make a woman want to follow you. I want to know why you're so arrogant that you crave that. You crave the feminine aspects of this species following you to your own detriment off a cliff. So then you can be blamed for it. It's so foolish.
I think I see a correlation with the people the men that are like this. I've usually already rejected they've rejected spirituality as a part of their existence, this reality. Like they just reject it. This is usually like an atheistic or agnostic, just like this is just like pure physicalism, right? Like there is no like that's why they'll sort of devalue the feminine energy also, right? That it's just we're just a bunch of wolves out here on this chaotic world, and it's fuck or be fucked. And if you only think that what you see is this whole reality, I think you're fucking dumb. And I think that's what the social media clowns are. I think the system likes to prop.
They don't even realize all they're communicating is the way they see themselves, just like my father used to do, and he would never recognize the higher level of comprehension going on. If you think you need to have things and money in order to be seen as a leader and provide in order to be valued, well, then when you don't, you're not.
Right.
That's the idea of the interaction with the JFK guy, was to go beyond that. There's levels to this. So, and we're back to pimping and hoeing again on some level. With a woman of little power, truly, and little value and little connection to self and God, well, then just having money and things and being able to provide is high value because she's in and of the world. With a woman who has her own things in and of the world, who's looking for an otherworldly connection and experience, you ain't shit.
Yeah.
She could get money. You don't understand. Shaitan gave us a world where now women don't need inauthentic corporate males, and it's perfect for the becoming story. Now you're really going to have to dig deep and become what you were meant to become as a creator in order to be seen as higher value. Because we're now at a point where females got all their own. They don't need you for that. Sorry, Mr. Provider. We got that down. What else do you have to offer? All you have is bad dick and disempowerment. She can get all her own shit. So what exactly defines you as different from the rest? What makes you a selective mate where she's going to go, this is someone above and beyond. This is someone I respect. This is someone who's co-creative. This is someone who's honorable and powerful and trustworthy. This is someone who I want to have my fucking next generations with come through.
Right, and that shit is objective.
Guy,
that's not subject. Like, that's a very objective.
Oh,
those are very objective things that you just said, and these folks don't want to admit that.
Right, but they're indirectly conferring what they believe their own power and value is, which is being in and of the world completely and having things. And they wonder why, when they don't have shit, the women they choose that they believe are valuable don't stay long.
And that's why all these inauthentic corporate males continue doing this, because this is like they've entrenched themselves into this like corrupt belief that they need all this shit. Then they have all these bills, and then their whole identity is just a house of cards built on this nonsense, and they have no true core. They don't have that foundation of being a fucking man. So that's why they cling to corporations and just people that just do horrible things, and they just look the other way.
This guy's a gem, huh? It's perfect. You speak on one dynamic and you go, there's another side to this, and it literally manifests in human form. And these are all aspects of self, right, that we have to look back on. Why is the talk about higher value? Just do. Also, she can get all her shit man created. You dude are a simp, LOL. You talk a game that doesn't exist unless you are afraid to be alone. Pussy is pussy. There's a ton of projection going on there. Been alone most of my life when it comes to people in general, especially the opposite sex, right? At one point in time, because of my mental and emotional challenges and upbringing and all the rest of it. So I'm far from someone who's afraid to be alone. As a matter of fact, I have more of an avoidant attachment style where I almost create situations and circumstances where I keep myself more alone than I would authentically if I allowed myself to feel deeper or more a broad range of emotions or experiences, which I've been looking at that and kind of working on that to practice with. I also don't accept the perspective, right? This is how bizarre you are. I don't accept the premise that all pussy is the same, that I'm only in an interaction with a woman because she has genitalia, and apparently I guess you can't figure out that the other side of this dynamic is a woman who thinks just like you, or lack of a woman. See, you're not a man, truly, and you probably call in females who are not really good women or more holistic women. So, for every dynamic you put out there and the way you see, you attract someone who is an equal or opposite contender in that experience. So guess what? Just like you just put forth your belief, the women you deal with have the same perspective. Dick is dick. Every one of these guys is a corporatist status male who doesn't stand for nothing, who doesn't really get me inspired or excited, who I don't really respect. He just does shit all day, every day. It pays for shit. Dick is dick. See, you haven't even experienced a deeper connection with self and the mirrored image of Wu Man, and what we're all here to do the work with each other and ourselves through the experience. So you're talking from a very limited, pigeonholed, shallow, materialistic, unresolved, unfulfilling state of consciousness and perspective. Right? It's just a lack of true care, true love, or true understanding. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. But you're not going to sit here and contend that you're at the pinnacle of some understanding, co-creativity. By the way, I bet you won't come up here and show yourself and speak. I bet if you do, it's all going to be known in 1 second who and what you are. And I bet you're not going to have any woman or companion or partner to refer to. Probably doesn't exist in your world. And you've had to get really used to being alone because you're insufferable and incorrigible. That's not a benefit. There's no power and value in that. Right? So stop projecting on me and talk about who and what you are, what your experience is. Show us, don't tell us even.
Here we go. It's one of these. That's the good.
Dude, I'm married and been for 25 years, and I've talked this way and have had best marriage of my life. She listens and makes me feel like a bad, hard man, and so in return, I treat her like number one. So she humors you. She bullshits you and humors you, so you pay for all her shit, and she doesn't have to deal with you beyond a certain point. And because you feel like a big, bad, hard man, she gets all the things she wants and needs in life without having to do what you do every day to get it. Who's the simp again?
Two scammers.
Right.
The problem is she's blowing O'Shea in the back room when he's not looking.
Yeah, the problem is that when you're not giving her an orgasm, she's got her eyes closed thinking of someone else. Well, that's the unfortunate part about this reality. So again, if pussy's just pussy, why get married? Kind of weird. If pussy's just pussy and you're married, well then you've got one. Why have to get into relationship dynamics about treating one person one way and the other person another way? See, there's no continuity with what you folks put forth. It doesn't make any sense. Pussy's just pussy. You're scared to be alone, Paulie boy, but I'm married for 25 years. And because I pay for shit and act a certain way, she acts back and reflects that back toward me. And everyone feels okay about our failure and disempowerment. So would you say pussy is just pussy around that woman you're with for 25 years? Doubtful. But because you're in Paulie's man cave, you're a different kind of guy, right? Big and bad and hard and tough because she lets you be according to you. But I'm the simp. Very bizarre. I get into it because I'm listening to the single ones complaining. There's more of your projection and rejection of the facts. You have no idea who any of us are and what relationships we're in. I have a relationship with a woman. This guy has a relationship with a woman and a child. What are you saying? You've now projected onto us that we're all single here. We're all complaining about women while we're all sounding like simps at the same time when everyone here is in a relation. It doesn't make any sense. Not supposed to. Just supposed to reveal who and what you are and how you live. And I know based on just this 5-minute interaction that you're a failure in everything you do. Because you have little to no comprehension. There's little to no continuity here, as in it's not making sense from one statement to the next. You have little to no co-creativity and some kind of real principles and values. So I guess thanks. Because you are the average member of the public, essentially. You are Joe Public. If you have one, why are you talking about it? I don't have anything. I'm having a relationship, experiencing a relationship with a woman. See, that's something you haven't, I guess, learned in your 25 years of not simping, that you can't actually get, keep, or have a woman. You can experience with one, but you can't get, keep, or have her. You are demeaning while talking about how demeaning is two-faced. It's not precisely what I'm saying. I'm not demeaning you. I'm pointing out how you live a life lacking in meaning. See, they're not the same. This is how I know, again, that you're a failure, because you can't make the connection on how the two have similarities but are also very different. See? You're attempting to demean a meaningful experience that I'm having and speaking about. You then equate to me pointing out how you lack meaning and purpose in your life to me demeaning. I'm not trying to take away the meaning and purpose that's inherent in your experience. I'm pointing out you don't have it and you're not having it. Okay? Not the same experience.
Why is he not here yet? He said he was coming. It's lame. I'm trying to figure it out. Okay, John Smith's not going to take life advice. He's not giving advice, but okay, then you want to do the thing where you do the negative. Okay, so then who do you take advice or words of wisdom from?
Billy Gates, Fauci.
Yeah, Billy Gates, Donnie Trumptard,
right.
You know, Andrew Tate. Who is your and then you know what you're gonna say no one. I'm subjectively successful. I follow me. It's just like, listen to me.
There it is.
And then we're gonna
from
say,
myself.
Yeah, I'm fucking good. I'm fucking good at this, man. Yeah, I give some of that credit to the broadcasting guy over here, this guy. But yeah, and then we go, and then the next, it's just a process. Yeah, I'm an engineer. I just see the workflow, like the step by step. Okay, John. Then the next question is like, so what have you got for yourself? You have a relationship. You're 57 years old. You went through 2 divorces already. Your kids are gone. Like,
you also can't read, right? This is why something you get here you don't get a lot of other places is me playing to the lowest common denominator. Like most of you folks can't see, you can't hear, you can't feel, you can't spell or read. You know, so we're now in the feeding on the troll segment. We have been for a while here. It's unslavious. It's not slavious.
Wait, what's wrong with not being able to spell?
Well, according to you, nothing.
Well, there you go.
A guy named Slavius, not my name, would ask me to quote someone. Slave mentality. Okay. No, I didn't ask you to quote anyone. I didn't specifically say that or ask that. I ask you and all the others who come here, the naysayers and demeanors of me and my experience, to tell me about yours. Pretty simple. Not necessarily giving advice. Why do you get hung up on spelling? That's very petty and immature. No, very petty and immature is putting your feelings onto facts. Facts are when folks can't spell, it determines usually something about them and their character. Usually point something out. It's an indicator of something. Right? You could argue the way one communicates is directly tied to their self-care and self-worth. One who would allow themselves to communicate like a fool and a retarded person doesn't really care about themselves and how they're experiencing or being seen. And there's 2 sides to that. There could potentially be a benefit to that. There could be a detriment to that. Right? So that's one of the aspects of why I point that out. You know, typically, folks who care about who and what they are and how they present and what they're talking about don't make a habit out of misspelling words constantly and regularly. So if you can't figure out how to use the language effectively, what makes me think that you can do anything else effectively? Would be the question. I'm serious. I'll join. I just don't know how. Well, I've only posted the link a dozen times. It's only pinned to the top there. It's only in the description. I've only pointed it out verbally many times. See, this is what I mean, right? Indirectly, if this is not direct, it's an indirect indictment on the conscious and awareness of the beings involved. You're arguing with me from a chat box. I've posted the link 10 times. I've verbally given you the instructions on where to go, and you still can't figure out where to be. Not exactly.
Did you tell him he has to download StreamYards?
Again, somehow, some way, everyone else seems to be able to figure it out. But the pinnacle of intelligence and masculinity can't figure out how to take charge of their mouse and keyboard and how to get on panel.
Okay.
You can click it directly from my channel. It's
all the leaders, by the way, who want women to follow them and think they should follow inherently can't figure out how to get on panel.
Okay, but us older fucking shitheads have never had this in our life. So
by the way, this is all indirectly how you win at court as well, by just pointing out the obvious. The obvious that eludes so many. Okay, we have a being here. Every rose has its thorn. There, Luke.
Yeah, you're right. Hey,
can you hear me?
Coming through, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, how you doing?
Oh, I'm blessed, sir. Who are you in chat? Do you have a name in chat we've been interacting with?
Oh no, it was just I was just looking for like a stream I could jump into and just talk.
Okay, well, go ahead. What can I do for you? What do you have to present for the people? What are you offering?
Well, I saw that with the stream name about like philosophy and stuff like that. See, have you got any particular sector with that, or?
I didn't get the last part of that.
Oh, so in the stream title where you discuss some philosophy, do you have any particular school of thought?
If I did, I wouldn't know what to call it. Not big on the ism, so I can't really specify. I'm sure someone else can. If they listen to me talk long enough or short enough, they'll tell you what the ism is that I'm engaging in.
Taoism.
Taoism. Okay, there you go.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I
then.
do till I don't.
Yeah, no, that is interesting, Taoism. What draws you to Taoism then?
Say again?
What draws you to Taoism?
The recognition of a dualistic dynamic here that apparently needs to be transcended on all levels. My understanding of Taoism would be an explanation of that experience and that process. And that just be maybe my misinterpretation, but I'm just giving you what it is that I perceive. It would seem that pretty much in all things that I experience, there's a this and a that. And we spend our whole time trying to figure out, is it this, is it that, when really it's this and that. And the recognition of that transcends one to a different perspective and experience of the whole, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. No,
Autism, that's
yeah.
right. That's the best ism that I'm involved in here, obviously, based on audience participation as well. I'm big on autism as a philosophy. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yeah, they completely understand.
Thoughts? No thoughts?
Yeah, sorry, I was just fixing something. So what is it you were discussing before I jumped into the stream?
Well, there's a bunch of stuff that I pretty much go into on here: legal and lawful, upholding the law, exercising rights, actualizing and realizing. They're kind of synonymous with me as a subject, I guess, if you want to say it that way. Among other things, right? Nutrition, sort of the art of living beyond the entertainment aspect of the broadcast, which is just kind of like covering whatever I've run into, whatever I've gone to search for. So we do a little bit of everything here and no thing at all.
Oh, that's a really good way of having a format, just open form.
Whatever I want to do in that moment, that's where it goes usually.
Yeah. I was going to say, I'm guessing you're American then.
I'm a what now?
You are American.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was born on the land known as America.
It is a great country. There are a lot of
was.
Yeah, it was. But you
Stuff
still
happened,
have the good old Constitution.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. I know that there are a lot of laws that infringe on the American people, but there is still a lot of protections afforded to the American people.
Timmy, I'm going to urinate. You want to take over on this one? Because we know where I'm going to go already, because it's always the same sort of phrases and themes. I'm not picking on you, sir, but there's a sort of a canned response to what you just said. Timmy could probably touch on it.
Yeah.
This idea that rights are based on a corporation called a country, and that somehow I'm afforded that. It doesn't come from God, right? It's like that's the spiritual idea of what we do here. Go ahead, Timmy. I got to urinate.
Yeah, there's an old quote by some dude that said, if the Constitution is still enforced, then it failed to prevent the dystopia that currently exists for most of the slaves, or it's not enforced anymore. So it either isn't there, or it didn't do anything to stop anything, because it can't do anything. It's a paper, right? And the folks that are supposed to be the enforcers of it are not the servants. It is the actual benefactors, the people that are supposed to be the ones that are giving away the authority, the power. Power comes from the people. If that's so, then if I'm going to agree to some document, well, I didn't sign in the Constitution. Most men alive haven't. Actually, the funny part is most of the people that signed it or swore an oath to it are the servants.
Oh yeah, no, don't get me wrong. With the government and the politicians, they have just constantly amended the Constitution as civilization progresses on.
That's great. That's their right. It's their thing. But what does the average man or woman, what duty or right does the average man or woman have over any of these documents?
when you say the right over the documents, do you mean like ownership or what they can draw from it?
You can just say the latter for now. What they can draw.
Yeah. So like with the document itself, it affords the rights to these people, which is a deeply important thing. You know, without these rights, you would truly be. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying America is completely perfect, especially when it comes to the government side. But still, having those tangible rights is a critical, important
Which
thing.
ones? Which ones?
Freedom of speech, the right against self-incrimination, the right to bear arms. I'd say they're big ones.
Right, but just to be clear, right, because I'm a stickler with the words, if you want to use that term, the corporation known as government is not affording the people anything. The contract is there for the corporation to recognize our inherent natural rights and to not trample them, which, of course, we've allowed them to do.
Oh, yeah, no, it is your completely
document
natural
doesn't
right.
give or take away rights. It recognizes natural rights and attempts to use a contract to protect them that the agents swear to uphold, right?
Oh, yeah, no, don't get me wrong. Those rights should be afforded to you as a natural concept. It's just in today's modern age, it does have to be solidified and, written down.
Yeah, but no, but who's solidified? Whose duty is it to solidify your rights?
The people.
No, but okay, but I explicitly asked you, whose duty is it to explicitly secure your rights, you as a man?
Well, I would say
to be a simple answer, sir.
No, yeah, I would say the people.
Notice he said the people in the whole, but when it came to individual, it somehow changed the answer. How does that? That's Schrodinger's rights, right? It's there, but it's not. The people have to uphold it, but they don't. You are a people, sir. I'm guessing.
Oh, I'd hope so.
Yeah, right. You are the singular connotation of the pluralized terminology, people. You are a person, in quotes, a natural person. So by proxy, by default, what you just said would mean you, I, Timmy. Each one of us is responsible and accountable for upholding the law and our rights. And when we don't do that, well, then we get what we've seen that people are complaining about.
Well, I think there's a distinction between law and rights.
Well, God-given rights is the law of this land. I think you mean statute, policy, and code.
Right.
Yeah, essentially like the law of government versus, the rights of God.
Jamie?
Basically, the point. Basically, the point is.
Sorry.
No. Just nobody said anything. The point is, sir. There's a little silence there. That I was trying to get you to say that you're responsible for your rights and essentially those that are under your care and your trust. Back in the day, you had House Baranowitz, right? Whatever, butchering your.
Oh no, it's all right. It's a weird way. It's a weird name.
But like. You and that's what the father was supposed to be doing, right? And back in the day, women had no rights, but they had, they didn't have any responsibilities either, right? Like, a woman does something and she's under my care, like I'm responsible. Like I have to figure that out. So it wasn't all bad, ladies. You didn't have any responsibility, so you didn't go to court and go to jail and all this stuff because you were under somebody else's care, right? So. But that's my responsibility. It's not the people's responsibility. Also, I challenge this concept of the people, sir. Like these concepts of nations and countries are to me fucking nonsense. What does a guy in Florida what does a guy on Florida and a guy on Montana? What do they owe each other? They've never seen each other. They're 2,000 miles away. The only thing that to me, the only answer is, well, it seems that we're all and woman, born of woman, is some sort of creation of some kind of extremely amazing higher creative force, and we are connected to that and through that and with that, and we're brothers in that regard, and that we want to do no harm to each other, and generally have peace with one another, to just be free, right? Like beyond that, it's like what is this, like this flag, or like we both signed the same corporate constitution contract, or like why do I like there's nothing else to me. There's nothing else. What's an American, what's a all these countries are made up of hundreds of tribes, so it's just a collectivism tactic to get folks into a box.
Right, and what's the tenet of collectivism / communism? Because Chris D asked a question. He apparently he can't see and feel anywhere where like rights have been interfered with. So, like, I'll give you a clue. One of the tenets of communism and collectivism is the abolition of private property. So technically, as of right now, most people, there may be like 1 or 2% of folks who figured this out and attempted to navigate it, but 98% or more of people don't actually have exclusive rights to what they call their property. They pay tribute to use it, called tax. So I know you can't see that or feel that. It doesn't like occur to you because you're such a like lowly slave that you're just so born into it and mind and heart control that just paying $3,000 to $5,000 a year to use your house is not like a lack of rights. It's not a lack of private property, right? You have no problem with that because the roads, right?
With taxation, taxation is definitely theft, and you should be what you own should be entirely yours. What you do with whatever you want.
Which tax is that? To be precise, which one?
If we're talking about property tax, and I don't know if it's a thing in the US, but council tax, or is it state tax? Is it?
They're all similar, right? But like, how is it precisely? How is exactly is it theft?
Because why should you pay the government for what? You're not
so
entitled to the
why do you pay? So why do you pay?
We pay under the threat of arrest.
No. You. Why do you pay?
Because sadly, I'm a slave to the system.
So how is that? So how is that theft? Because you decided to be a slave.
Well, as a slave, you can, if you're forced to do something that you disagree with, you're still forced to do it.
Who forced you to ever wire the council tax your quarterly or monthly or yearly bill? When did anybody put a knife to your throat or put a gun to your head or translate a clear and specific threat from them to you specifically unless you pay? When exactly did that happen? All right, it didn't. You're just presuming, correct?
Well, no, it's an implemented system.
Oh my God, you're one of these people. It's implemented. It's fraud because it's like the system said. What? Because the news told you about some story about some guy who didn't pay and now he's in jail, and you just took it by face value and you just agree? What do you mean? When does the system actually like force you to do anything? Please.
Yeah, you couldn't actually know you were forced until you got to the position where you declined to cooperate. You can never claim to be forced if you've never come to the position where you declined to cooperate and weren't actually forced. Everyone's gone along to get along, so you can't claim you're forced because no one's ever stopped to say, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, you know what? You're right there. I'm sorry.
No, you don't have to be sorry. We're just pointing out.
You've pointed it out clearly there, and that is correct. I don't have.
Yeah, like how many pimps tell hoes across the nation, you're going to go out and fuck today and give me everything that you make, okay? And then they go, well, out of fear or just uncomfortability, we're going to go along with that. But how many hoes stand up and say, I'm not paying you shit and I'm not fucking for you today?
Yeah.
They can't claim they were forced because they've never taken the steps to opt out, right?
Yeah, true.
And oddly enough, even in the world of pimping, if the pimp is not completely corrupt, the hoe always has an option to walk off, right?
Yeah.
Hoes coming and hoes going. That's rule number one of pimping. Don't get attached. If they want to leave, let them leave. but they'll sit there all day, every day up under a pimp saying they're getting beaten, they're getting abused, they're getting this, they're getting that, but they've never told them, I'm out, I'm opting out, I'm leaving. So they can't claim they're being forced because on some level at the beginning and the end of the day, they've made a contract and an agreement to uphold that expectation.
Yeah, true. Yeah, because they could just, as you said, just get up and leave if it was like that.
And we're not just like talking shit up here. Like, I'm a guy that this is like the 60th time in the public airwaves admit publicly, it's not a secret, I'm not hiding it, I'm not subject to IRS tax, and I don't pay because I have private busyness. So I'm not afraid to admit that. I've been living like this for at least 10 years now. I've never gotten a peep. So, like, I could just be like this guy, Brian. I have to pay my tax at the point of a gun. I doubt that ever happened. Unless it's like your local thug, then you got a different problem. If I don't pay it, they will. Now you're presuming, you're imagining, you've accepted the news's story when they onslaught you with their marketing and bullshit and their propaganda. You've been propagandized.
And they're so good at it that they're so good at it that if I brought in half a dozen people here today who've not followed along and somehow gotten away or gotten resolution, they'll say it doesn't exist. That's a one-off. He got lucky. We know this is the reality.
Yeah, I love it. The Americans love to just talk about how like the Russians and Chinese are so propaganda, and I'm like propagandized, and I'm like, you guys are number one. And like it might be number one in history with the way the internet is right now. It's fucking crazy. He says they'll send a small army and steal it and take my life. What are you talking about? I feel like and then if we go like 2 steps down this, or 2, 3, 4, 5 steps down this conversation, and we go, okay, like 2 hours later, like we just end the broadcast, right? 2 hours later, maybe we'll get to what do we need to fucking do when everybody like kind of gets in some sort of agreement. Oh, we need to make our own fucking communities, build our own fucking food and security systems, blah blah. Oh, but then you'll just Ruby Ridge or Waco, like all.
Is it not the
fucking
same logic? Is it not the same logic as the last 4 or 5 years? Everyone's got to put on the mask and take the jabs, or else. And how many of us said, "Now give us the or else," and we're still here talking? And whether we got arrested and went to jail or not, we never got convicted. Like this person says down there, lots of people are refused to pay council tax and won at court. You can't make the claim that everything is corrupt and beyond reason here if you've never stood up with your reason and put it on record. It just becomes a default state of beingness, right? The default state of beingness here is pimping and hoeing and slavery and genocide till you motherfuckers put it on record that you're not going to manifest it. If you don't put it on record that you're not going to manifest it, you're part of manifesting it.
Yeah, it's you're right. It's like the leash argument where it's like, I'll bark at them, but I won't bite because I'm on a leash.
Here we go. Also, when they put a lien on property, bank, and garnish wages, what do? Well, number one, you'd have to get to that point first. Then you'd have to ask yourself why you're existing in debt to a centralized banking system, why you've not put in your property in trust or held it in the proper status and standing to where they can't make a reasonable claim on it. And the answer for most people is you don't and you haven't. You're deep in debt. The bank owns your shit. You're paying taxes and tribute to use it. You've never put yourself on record or made a claim, and you've never given conditional acceptance to these people. You've never even held them liable to being men and women on the record. They're mostly operating through the perspective of being seen as a corporation or a corporate entity.
Yeah.
So here's a clue. Don't be in debt. Own whatever you have. Put it in trust so you no longer own it, because with ownership comes responsibility and obligation. If it's held in trust, well, everyone can use it and upkeep it, but nobody has any official obligation or liability with the corporate procedures, right? So we should start there. Owning your own shit, not being in debt, being able to make a claim of ownership or lack thereof, and have no man or woman or corporation be able to come into the conversation to make a rebutting claim that no. JP Morgan Chase owns this property. We're lending it to you at interest, and you haven't finished making the payment, so you don't own anything. Right? So again, I'm sorry that it's an uncomfortable reality most don't want to hear, but it's easier, way easier to get into this than it is to get out. And the only way out is to stand on a certain understanding and give conditional acceptance and surrender in faith that they're not going to do all the bad, wrong things to you. Or if they do, well, then that's the price you got to pay for rights and freedoms, right? They used to say, freedom ain't free. So just telling me you're going to lose your goofy ass house you don't own and all your pretty and nice things to stand on what's true and what's right doesn't really wash at the end of the day, because in your mind and heart, if you'd rather give up who and what you are at the core and what God gave you to keep your things in and of the world, that is Satanism, sirs and ma'ams. There's no other way to see it. You're willing to sell your soul and who and what you are and what you're meant to be and the law of this land to keep your pretty and nice things you don't fucking own anyway. Doesn't get any more satanic than that. Doesn't get any more soul selling, soul suck than that. Doesn't get any more on record to manifest judgment than that. You wonder why America Lady Liberties and judgment? It's because the majority of the populace has the perspective you have. They'd rather keep the shit they don't own that owns them instead of own their soul and do what's true and what's right. And that's why you got a bunch of inauthentic corporate males. And that's why weakness is ubiquitous. And that's why this nation is failing.
Yeah, and like Carlos, I don't know who you're talking to, but like, I've never been thrown in jail. But if you're talking to me, I mean, dude, I've done my own personal work to like go through challenges and like conquer my fears. Like, what would being put in a box for a bit like change my tune? Why?
Hello, I've been there.
Yeah.
Hello, I've been in the box half a dozen times in the last 5 years. I've been facing 3 to 5 years at different times. I've been to jail before. So you're making a presumption that some of us haven't gone to jail already, and you're making the presumption that when we do, which we already have, we're going to change, which we haven't. Because ultimately, I didn't make myself to be this way. God created man with a soul to understand and implement certain things, and no amount of loss, injury, or harm is going to change how I was created to be under God. If it does change how I perceive how I was created to be, then I sold my soul again. And ultimately, there's no way out of it either way. Going along to get along with the self-imposed and self-created tyranny doesn't solve the problem, doesn't lead to fulfillment.
Yeah.
And you guys sell way too early. You guys are selling when at the bottom. You guys are selling for pennies. You guys sell your soul for nothing because you actually don't get any value or return that's long term from selling your fucking soul for some short term false security. Anyway, I mean, like,
oh yeah, no, it's purely a material pleasure for a eternal damnation, isn't it?
It's not. You don't even have to get like put the religiosity on it. It's just that's just what it is, man. We're talking about success before you came in. You're talking about being a man. I mean, most of these motherfuckers out here, these boys have not taken any fucking personal risk to go out and do what the fuck they want to do.
Tammy,
they didn't believe in themselves. Yeah.
Tammy, we got so many folks to interact with here who haven't been here for like 3 years straight. Yeah. And that's why we're always looping here, because it's a lot of the same talking points, and that's okay. I'm here for it. Banks, jobs, PayPal, they report to the IRS and state your income. How the hell do we get out? Can we all work for cash? There's a lot there. But again, you just presumed and assumed PayPal has dual jurisdiction. There's a natural person and a legal person. There's private and public jurisdictions. You just ignored all of that because you don't understand it. And there's a good chance when I put it forth to you, you're going to act like I made it up. So there's a reason when you go on PayPal, they ask, are you giving this to friends and family, or is this products and services? Because government, aka the self-defined corporation, only has what it believes to be rights to regulate commercial activities. That means tax on commercial activities, products and services, buying and selling in a public forum. You don't have to pay tax on private gifts. Even the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, the service provider, and all the rest of them agree, right? Even they agree with their gaslighting and corruption of the language and the law of the land that gifts are non-taxable. And after a certain amount, there's a process and a procedure at death where this is all noted.
And also, I want to say another thing here. Like, it also just flip the view. Like that is one way that's an acceptable way to see it, a perspective to have. But also, I like to take the reverse position that everything that they do, they can tax. They're taxing their activity. And who's they and who's there? I'm talking about public. Public really means military/government. If you really look up one of the deeper definitions. So that means all of the corporations in all caps that are registered under a state, under the umbrella, under the US, right? The United States, the federal corporation. And this is obvious. And Congress's only purpose is to regulate commercial activity. Commercial means giant companies moving product across nations, essentially, right? So they're not talking about private compensation. So you can call it a gift. It doesn't mean, oh, I got to be in my opinion, that I don't have to be like, oh, let me hide. No, because also these motherfuckers, again, you're presuming that they're talking about you. You presume that they're talking about man, woman. If I have a PayPal account, it's always going to be in all caps name, and it's going to be my government name, right? That's the account name. Are they actually explicitly saying that they have interest in the property connected to that account, or is that the man or woman's, right? But when none of you motherfuckers show up and claim, hey, this is just an account name, the account can be under the corporate umbrella, because how else can you interface? It's an interface. But again, I'm going too far. Folks are just like, oh, I'm a slave and it's too hard.
We got a Jezebel harlot to address anyway, right? Yeah. As if men having true meaning and purpose and upholding the law and exercising rights isn't a priority above having sex. And based on the quick look at you, I'm thinking that having sex is one thing you're not lacking. So if we're all lacking sex and you're as ran through as I suspect you are, you may want to add 10 more bodies to the list if you're offering a service. Right? Not that any of us necessarily, well, maybe Lewis, but I wouldn't want to take you up on that at this point for fear of contracting some horrific transmitted disease. So oddly enough, some of us are in a relationship. We get all the sex that we want. And even more weirdly and oddly enough, all the sex you want isn't a sublimation for true power and value and co-creation in a man's life. If you meet a male who's like you, who thinks that just having enough sex is enough in one's life to not be a free, co-creative, empowered, upstanding individual, you probably got bigger problems and issues than you'd want to address on this forum. So I get it. You're not lacking in sex. You're ran through. You're one of the only fan up and comers. And any other man out there, see, this is the pure Jezebel harlot spirit. Any man out there who's not like chasing you for your worn out vagina is somehow lacking and less than, right? It's nice gaslighting. I'm sure it works on the inauthentic corporate males and low value simp tricks that you deal with, but it's not going to work here. Okay, so see, when before and after we're done with someone like you having the sex, we got to go back to being people, and I'm sure you're not too great at that. Just judging on by like 4 words there, you know?
5 pixels.
Yeah, usually the females who think that a man's whole purpose is to have sex with her in life, and that's the beginning and end of it, usually aren't great people, is what I've found.
I love how you just decimated that point then without tripping up whatsoever. That was class, that.
Well, that's the thing, but I didn't decimate her. I just pointed out the overwhelming probability and possibility for a reality she experiences that I interact with daily. You know, it's all over the place at this point. It's patently obvious.
Yeah, true. That's a bit like the way society is today.
Right, I'm not decimating her. I'm giving her an opportunity to do better, be better, and have better. You know? Peace to our poll. Much love to Paulie Boy and crew. Our poll, Jack Talcott's favorite assistant. I'll allow it here today. Blessings to our poll and others. We're choosing love. At least part of the time here. No hate. Doesn't your birth certificate make you a co-operation automatically? Not necessarily. There are some folks at some times, and there's some reasons to believe that This birth certificate, more importantly, the social security card, is essentially a contract for benefits and privileges in the public. And that comes at an expense, which would be your natural rights. So essentially, you take the birth certificate, you sign up with this service provider that calls itself government to give you benefits and privileges, one of which is to keep you safe, right? Social security, ergo your natural rights, because you're now in a contractual agreement to allow these folks to provide service. And in exchange for those services, benefits, and privileges, you'll receive some duties and obligations in the unspoken social contract, mainly to follow everything they tell you in policy, statute, and code. So I wouldn't objectively demonize a birth certificate. Ultimately, a birth certificate could be used in its proper form to establish a proper claim of being born on the land, and therefore being able to enjoy the natural rights as if you could take rights from someone who didn't have that paper, right? But let's just leave that alone. It could be seen as a claim. Go ahead.
You could also have, like, you could have a birth certificate that is simply a piece of paper that says you were born on this day with no contractual obligation to anything.
Right. It would be what they call a live birth record.
Yeah.
But the issue also comes in with these words and terms. For me, I can't prove it, but when we start talking birth versus born, when we start talking registration dates and all the rest of it, and then the system wants to stop people and say, what's the name? What's your name, right? The name that they created for you, the account, and what's the birthday, right? And they're going to try to tie the creation of that person to the day that the man or woman was born. So essentially it is an account to me, as far as I perceive. There has been a person created that you can use as a man or woman to interact in the public or in a corporate venue, right? Because their systems can't recognize man or woman. It's like going on a computer and trying to put a man or woman into the computer to interact. The computer needs a person, a vehicle for you to interact within that realm, right? So when it comes to the record, when it comes to the systems and circumstances, they created a person and gave it to us. It's an account. We have a person. We are not the person, right? And again, it even delineates in U.S. code. There's a natural person and a legal person. They even will go on to say corporations are considered persons. Then they'll say you're a crazy sovcit if you're making a connection between the all caps name, a birth registration date, the creation of a contract, and a person to be used to keep records and to engage in a credit and debit system. Right? So, the legal attorneys have said to me, well, Paul, that's just in all caps of your regular name. It's to make it easier to read and see. No, I don't accept that. Right? It makes more sense to me that in this system and at court, they don't recognize man and woman, because man and woman has rights. The only thing they recognize is corporations, aka persons, and that's the only thing they can regulate while recognizing. They can't legally, lawfully regulate or recognize man and woman in its original capacity. Yeah. So again, what does Shaitan do? Makes every man or woman under God a corporation or a corporate endeavor in and of itself, and then regulates it as corporate activity, right? The United States citizen is defined as a business. I can pull it up. I pulled it up many times here before. They define in U.S. code a business of the United States as a United States citizen. So they've essentially turned every man and woman into a business or into a corporate capacity in order to regulate every man and woman by presuming that all of their activities from birth to grave are commercial activities. They've monetized us essentially. They've tokenized us. Folks like to talk about Bitcoin, how it's going to take over the world and put everyone into demonic slavery. You're already here. They already did Bitcoin 1.0, tokenized everybody's beingness, created an altered version on a blockchain, and then wrote up statute, policy, and code to regulate the movement of those persons, those avatars who actually have men and women behind them. So they're just perfecting this spirit. This force is just perfecting its game here. How do you take men and women made in the image of the Most High completely out of the simulation and get them to work through an avatar that we have control over?
Yeah.
Just called AI, really.
I was going to say, I'm going to shoot off soon, but could I ask something if that's okay with you?
Sure.
Because what you've been saying and stuff, one of the things I come to, do you think objectivism is a good concept, or is that just like a throwaway thing?
You'd have to define it for me.
Objectivism is like what you create, what you do, what you earn is purely your entitlement. No one can infringe upon it.
Yeah, I mean, if that's your definition of objectivism, that we all have inherent rights and property that extends off of our beingness, and we have a right to decide what happens with self and whatever extends off of self, then sure.
Yeah,
You know,
essentially,
what you
like
call it doesn't change what it is, right?
Yeah, it's like there's no government, no individual, no thing can infringe upon what you do or earn and stuff. It's just you work for you, and everyone else works for themselves.
Yeah, I think it's interesting in the chat, right? Some folks are getting it. The dollar is already digital currency, right? There's a paper representation, but ultimately the paper representation can be printed ad infinitum, and the paper representation represents the numbers on the screens in the accounts, right? So we've already had digital currency for the longest time.
Yeah, because most money now, it's not like there's a giant pile of cash just sitting in a bank somewhere. It's all up in the air on digital land.
Yeah, they report 97% or more is digital, not cash.
Oh, right, guys. Thank you for having me on the stream. It has been really interesting talking to you, and I hope you have a really good night. And take care. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, man.
Come on back now. You hear?
Good fella.
All right. Yeah, I mean, listen, he took accountability and responsibility, almost went too much the other way for my liking. I like to meet in the middle. Accountability, responsibility without the guilt and the shame, right? If we're experiencing any guilt or shame, well, then that's just to project us or propel us to do and be and have better, right? So really only necessary in order to facilitate that change and that action. Beyond that, I don't require that of beings who come here. You know, all you need to do is recognize and understand and apply the information to get a better result in your life, and then potentially on the world scale or on the national level, right? But there is no need to apologize, right? Or to feel sorry or guilty or shameful. If anything, you know, apologize to yourself that you haven't been all that you could be, that you're meant to be, because it was more important to not have something happen to your body while your soul is being taken. And we all do it. You know, it's a product of the experience in this realm. It's why these folks call it a hell realm. You know? One man's hell realm is the next man's potential growth chamber to reach heaven, so to speak. Cynthia, I saw you in the back. I'll let you up, although I suspect that, like usual, the majority of your intention and motivation is going to be moved toward creating more drama, engaging in gossip, trying to get a back and forth going between you and OTW and others, because that's seemingly all you seem to know how to do or be a part of here, at least the majority of the time on these interwebs. So I don't want to presume and assume too much, but forgive me, that's been the pattern. And, you know, I apologize if it's difficult for me to throw away all that I've experienced with certain beings to presume that today is a new day and you will do something different. I mean, not likely, but one can hope or have faith. Still haven't gotten an answer. Give me the question again. I'll give you an answer. Who knows if it's the right answer, but it'll be the right answer for me at the time. Where's he at? So what's the necessary step? Okay, I'm guessing that's his question. You have to decide that. Each individual participant has to decide for them what the next step is. I can tell you what my trajectory has been. I could tell you what my next steps are for me. I can't even tell you if those are objectively the right next steps. They're just right for me at this time, till I realize they're not, if I realize that. So the trajectory is understanding the spiritual and physical dynamic here and the interplay, right? They work with each other. They're not mutually exclusive. Understand the idea of spiritual faith and honor and revelation here, trust, equity, and faith. understand that carries over in maxims to law. Understand there's a difference between law, statute, policy, and code, and man's rules. Put yourself on record as much as possible if you have God's will in you to see and feel and understand the same thing I do as a being who's walking with the truth, life, and the way, rather than in the world and of it and subject to the deception all places and all times, right? So the next steps are relative to where you come from, where you're at, and where you're going. And I contend that for everybody here, it's potentially the same process. So, if you don't know, then you can't do better. Once you know, then it's incumbent upon you to do better. The only way to do better is to do something different than what you've done before, right? So I don't think that there's any one way to put yourself on record and to practice upholding the law and exercising rights. There may be certain common themes or experiences, but doesn't necessarily have to be one next step or one way completely, right? So you have to determine it. Do you want to travel freely? Do you believe you have a right to travel freely? Do you believe you have private property rights? Do you believe you have a right to make a decision where your value goes, what it's used for, right? So based on what you believe here, what you know here, what you want to achieve here, will come forward the next steps for you, right? So part of the next steps for me is growing my own food, having clean water, being debt-free, living on the land, being close to nature, healing my body, right? So you have to determine from where you're coming from, where you're at, where you're going, in quotes, what the next step is for you and what you want to get out of this life or what you want to avoid leaving to this world, so to speak, or what you're creating in this world. Your thoughts, Timmy? I heard you. He owns nothing and he's happy.
No, I was just gonna. I saw this guy's comment. I just wanted to say something about it. He or she says, we live in such a digital society. My bank reports the IRS. I make $8K a month. That's a lot of gifts. Most of my customers pay with debit. I'm asking how. I think I speak for many who are stuck. All I'm going to say is I'm just going to speak from my own personal experience. To me, what matters, and again, you can just say I'm a retard. Doesn't matter. Even if you believe me, you can just say that I'm lucky, right? So it doesn't. It is what you take this with a grain of salt. But you say I make $8K a month. Okay, so is that true? Is it to you? Does your agreement, whether formal or informal, clearly articulate that? Do you say that I, Surrender Johnson, do this work for this compensation of my precious time, and then the other guy signed the agreement or orally did? Well, then what else matters? Because just because you have a bank account that says your corporate name on it, just that the transaction goes through there, you think that gives the IRS a third party to then have interest in your compensation? How does that make any sense? Like logically, that doesn't make sense, right? So it's the contracts, in my opinion. It's the contracts that mean everything. If you're making a corporate contract with some corporation and you sign it with as your name in all caps, and you're also a corporate entity, or if you're an employee, at McDonald's Inc., you sign a contract that says I'm an employee for McDonald's Inc. Do you define the terms? No. Oh, I'm just a dumb employee, NPC slave. Well, I mean, that's your fault, right? It seems like you might have your own business though. So you are in charge of determining how your affairs run. If you want to get paid in a certain way, you want to call it a certain thing, and you don't want to have some sycophantic third party to just like drain you and now not get anything in return, that's unlawful. No. And also, when the fuck has the IRS stood up at court against a man and there was an actual real fucking public case, and the IRS just threw people in jail and never. Now we can go into that another time, right? But I would like to see those cases, because it seems like every fucking time it's just like some idiot that just goes, I'm not paying anymore. And it's like, don't you get paid? Don't you like work at McDonald's? You're like a corporate consultant for McDonald's. Yes, you got paid from corporations for the past 27 years, and you were an employee for the past 27. Yeah, I don't want to pay the taxes anymore though. Great. Okay, so it doesn't make any sense. So you got to get precise with all these things.
Right. The thing is most people are just going to do what everyone else does to avoid triggering a potential audit and then coming to the position where potentially you have to say, I have a right to remain silent. I don't have to tell you or give you anything. If you're making the claim, then make it. And if you're wrong, then it's not legitimate, can't be upheld. So some man or some woman somewhere has to claim that they believe, based on your testimony, that you're engaging in some kind of activity. So
surrender. Here's the rub. That's you. You just admitted you're reporting the fucking income. You are the one that's reporting that
you're defining it. We played
idiot.
the video here yesterday of the man who worked at the tax agency saying that the IRS has never defined income. It's just that easy. We say, report all income, and you presume and assume that income means any value that comes through your hands or your accounts. So you report that, and they say, thank you. You just turned state's evidence on yourself. You just admitted these are all in a corporate capacity, that you're doing business in a certain way, and you believe this is all reportable, taxable income. The folks are saying you're being forced. No one's forcing you to believe and understand what others tell you to believe and understand. You're claiming you believe and understand it when you obviously don't. So it'd make more sense for you to say, I don't believe this or understand it. And then let anyone else who's going to make a claim come forth and substantiate that. You're innocent till proven guilty. So again, what's the level of also, because I could take this to another level. If you just did everything you did in trust and you did it for free, gratis, oddly enough, this is going to be a crazy fucking thought to these people. I know it is. Their head's going to pop off like snafu snaps. If you just did the right thing and you served the community and you did the best you could, most, if not all, people are going to take your products and services and not give you something back. That's just what I found, right? And if most do, there's going to be a few who make up for the rest. But no one wants to try that. Or a few do. Julian's tried it. Others here have tried it, right? The model that I work on, I don't work here. I show up. I give away who and what I am and what I have. There's many folks who say that it's a product, it's a service, it's this, it's that. I'm not selling anything here. I'm not engaged in a contractual exchange. That means whatever is gifted to me is gifted to me. The person may have an intention of what it's for, but I never require payment upon the termination of my broadcast. So it's about status and title and standing. This is why they have separate applications for donations and contributions and charity and all the rest of this. It's not all one thing. It's about what it's considered, what's denoted as. So try something new in your life. For the next 10 people who trust you, who know that you're good at what you do, just do it because you're good at it and it's what you're meant to do, and turn it over and surrender in faith that they give you whatever it is that they're meant to give you. Even if that's nothing, truly work in trust, equity, and faith, and watch what God does. And I would bet you, and again, I'm not going to say everybody because I've experienced it here. I'm not going to complain about it, but there may be 80 to 90% or more of folks who come and eat up whatever you got, take in whatever you got, use it up, get the most out of it, throw it aside and move on with their life. For the 10 or 5 or 20% who don't live that way, they make up for the rest. So I'm not even telling you what your result's going to be. I'm telling you you're going to get a result out of trying living that way, and you're going to learn more about yourself and life, whatever that is that's meant to be revealed to you. But again, if you work involuntary, if you work for charity, if you do ministry or you do service, charitable service, voluntary charitable service, and you give away who and what you are because it's what you're meant to do and be, you just might find that everyone and more might give you back more than what you got if you'd have charged everybody $20 a head or whatever the price is. Can't tell you anything other than my own experience, right? And by virtue of the fact that I don't sell anything and I'm not doing products and services, and whatever I do here is technically a gift, then whatever's given to me back or given to me in exchange is not really an exchange. It's a gift. I gave a gift. Someone else gave a gift. So I would say there's definitely something to be said for trying a different model of the way you perceive yourself and life and the idea of busyness. Thoughts on any of that, Timmy?
Yeah, I mean,
Cynthia's in and out, in and out. She's got something with Brian O'Shea. She's back there. She's not. I don't know what that's about, but
I was gonna say it might be different for products, right? Because you got hard costs instead of services. But then again, then we get into the real thing where it's like, maybe I shouldn't be sourcing my product from 7 different countries and doing commercial activity. That is doing commercial activity. Then you're doing commercial activity. Then you are relying on boats and planes and fuel, and maybe you should make something local. Maybe you shouldn't need so much overhead and capital, operating capital. Maybe that's part of the thing. Like, did you actually sit down? Why should you be able to tap into all those things that aren't yours? What about that? Like commercial activity, there's taxes on it because sometimes it actually just makes sense, right? You actually have to pay like the shipping container to like ship your stuff over. Like that makes sense, right? So I would have to go.
There should be a way, you would think, in a product and service based society or community, there should be a way to leverage your product or service or work to get back everything you need and then some without ever trading in their debt instruments. I can't talk about it from firsthand experience completely. I have shades of that in my life, but I know at least other people who do that. The guy who lives here is a master mechanic. He fixes everyone's cars because they all go to him to use him, right? When you have a talent and ability, everyone knows about it. And if you're a good guy, everyone's going to come take advantage of that, right? And on some level, there's going to come a day where you need something from them. Aren't we back to Godfather now? One day the Godfather's going to ask you for something and you're probably going to have to provide that back because he's did something for you. So nowhere in there is there exchange of debt notes, which then makes you liable for taxation. There's no reason if you own a company that you can't let everybody pay you without paying you in whatever it is they have in value. So I'm going to do this for you. You're going to give me back this. I'm going to do this for you. You're going to give me back this. This is a sustainable community based on free trade and bartering. So one of the issues is you keep using United States instruments, debt note instruments, and they will claim that he who creates controls. So stop using US dollar, which has not been deemed as a currency, but as a bill of exchange. There's other forms of bill of exchange that you can engage with that don't make you liable for taxation. How about you encourage people worldwide to start buying and trading or holding gold and silver? Then you can make exchanges with that. That's not taxable because that's currency. Gold and silver is currency. Everything else is credit and debit or debt, and it's using their commercialized instruments from a private federalized reserve. But again, everyone wants the easy, convenient solution that creates more problems.
I generally agree with the intent and direction. I just don't I don't think that if I'm trading something, me and a private man in a private contract, I'm trading him something. There's no I don't think that creates liability. Like if I got a Pokemon card, you remember Charizard back in the day? Like if I have a Charizard right now and I'm gonna sell it to you, it's like the Pokemon company cannot just like go, oh well, you owe us a tax on that because we created that thing that you bought. Like I already bought it, right? So like I think it's gray area. But yes, I mean what you're saying is more closer to the ground. Why use these fucking things in the first place in your own community? But this guy's complaining immediately, like, and it's a worldwide business. I don't even know these fucking people. Like that's what he said. It's like, well, maybe you should learn who they are, and maybe you should educate them and discuss. And maybe you're gonna lose some sales. Maybe you're gonna gain a lot more because you're not just a fucking NPC business like everybody else, where you're a commodity and you're fighting on price. Why don't you fucking stand for something? That's just an idea. I do that. I get great success with that. Anybody ever comes at me with any kind of like bullshit terms, I'm just like, I'm not interested. No. Why would I sell what I have now, this position, for a little quick bullshit contract. It doesn't make any sense. And I educate them and say, look, this is how I live. 90% of men agree with me. So you don't want to do the work. You got your things, products, and I do want to talk to the customers. It's whatever. Then deal with your current situation. I love it. I love how 99% of you are just like fucked. It may be a bit sadistic, but I think it's great. You guys fucking love it. There's no competition. There's no competition in being a man. There's no competition in like doing good business. It's fucking great. And that's why all the fucking big boys, the rich get richer, and you just complain, and you want to pay, and you don't figure it out. So figure it out.
Right, but it's also about having more access to the commercial world. Like back in the day, people weren't looking for the next Gucci slippers they were going to use U.S. debt notes to get. It's like, certain things were for the luxuries of the rich beyond a certain point. The commoner under the common law goes, I'll fix your car. Give me a pallet of rice. I'll give you half a pallet of rice. Give me half a pallet of wheat. I'll kill this animal and butcher it. You give me a couple slaves to work the back 40. Like in a real world on the ground in a community, folks are less worried about you handing them pieces of paper backed by nothing as they are a livelihood. So people are pretty much all day, every day trading products and services for more livelihood. It doesn't require a debt note in between, right? I mean, this is kind of the mind-blowing aspect of a outsourced, commercialized economy where we go to these big corporations and venues to get access to all these supposedly great and better and high-class things that are all poisoned and devalued truly at their core. So the man on the ground who lives in an actual community that's sustainable and co-creative never needs cash because he's got his skill, his talent, his ability, his product, his service that's going to get him everything and more access to that community and its products and services. This is how you completely remove these people in this system from your life as much as possible. Can it ever be done completely? Who knows? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. It's a start, but you got to develop a different perspective and way of thinking and living, right? People will literally go online and hold up a bunch of pieces of paper created by a private corporation that are backed by nothing. Oh, look at me, I'm balling. Show me how many acres you got. Show me how much gold and silver you got. Show me how many heads of cattle and how many pieces of lettuce you got. Ball that out on the internet because that's where your reality is going to be won or lost. That's where your livelihood is at or not. There's going to come a point in time where the coupons for value are not going to go as far as they used to if they go anywhere at all. And if you don't have the head of cattle and you don't have the pieces of wood and you don't have all the things for your livelihood, you ain't going to make it, especially if you don't have the skills and abilities and talents to co-create that or the community to share that with. Right?
Well, you might make it. You might make it, but what does it mean to make it? If you're unable to feed yourself or your family and your loved ones, you may survive, but you're going to be in a line asking for a bag of gruel, and they'll say, here, we'll give you this bag of gruel. Just take these 3 shots and bring your little daughter for 12 o'clock because I'm off. Right? So is that making it? I don't know. But I was just going to say to Timmy, that guy, he named himself correctly, right? What did he call himself? He called himself Surrender because he's surrendered to being a slave. And he named himself. It's perfect. They always seem to do that.
Yeah. It's a unconscious revelation, right? You can submit to fear, you can submit to faith. I got Bitcoin, sold gold. What do you think about Bitcoin? I think most of these things go through cycles. If you're looking to try to turn something into more, then you play the cycles and hope that, you can sit down on the sort of satanic musical chairs before the music is over. But ultimately, you say, what do I think about it? I don't think really much about any of this stuff. I just look at it and try to understand what it is. So Bitcoin, as far as I understand what it is essentially a long game psyop to deny certain things and then promote other things and to get a shift in the way that people perceive financial independence. And ironically, it puts them more into dependence on the system and its tools and processes. So I think it's working perfectly because folks like you are telling me you're selling a physical asset that's tangible and been valuable from the beginning of time for something you can't see or touch, that if they decided to, they could take from you without ever you being in the room or them being in the room with it. I think they got you gamed and played already, and you don't even know it. They're so 5 to 10 steps moves ahead of you. I had a guy tell me 10 years ago, Bitcoin's the truth. It's going to save everyone. I go, Dave, don't you understand about this realm yet and how it works? Doesn't matter what is created. Nothing can really be created here. It doesn't matter what you come to be aware of and then manifest. It will always be misuse and abuse by a preponderance of slaves who don't know themselves and how to generate true power and value. So sure enough, years later now from its inception, he's had to admit to himself and others that I was right. It's not about me being right. It's about looking at what it is. If you can't have a financial system of gold and silver and then dollars backed by gold and silver, what makes you think Bitcoin is going to work for you or anyone else when it's backed by nothing and tied into a system and being regulated? They're doing that because they can't track and trace and regulate cash beyond a certain point. They're doing that because they can't track and trace and regulate everything else you're doing. They can with that because there's a ledger and a blockchain, and they're going to use the idea of accountability and responsibility to have a claim on your property and rights. Well, all the wars and the theft and all the rest of it will be over. We can finally track and trace everything. Yeah, right. So the people who are tracking and tracing are going to stop killing, stealing, and destroying and lying and governing to live in a kumbaya world. Doubtful. So am I denying the opportunity? If you want to hedge your bets on inflation, right? Inflation goes up, power of the dollar goes down. So people seek hedges against the inflation and the devaluing of the dollar. So they put their money into speculative assets, gold, silver, Bitcoin. They're all speculative assets. The difference is gold and silver has a tried and true reputation from the beginning of time. Bitcoin's only been here 15, 20 years, and the volatility is crazy. So there's a short-term possibility for you to outcompete inflation to get 2, 3, 4, 5x on whatever you put in there and then get it out, right? But again, it's a lot easier with a lot of stuff seemingly to get in than it is to get out. And they're going to try to stick you with capital gains tax and all the rest of it in between, trying to swindle it and say you work with Russia and it's funding terrorism and all the rest of it. You know, they already proved what it's all about. Don't you remember with Putin when they stopped all the transactions in Russia for Bitcoin and claimed everyone was a terrorist working with Putin, so we're just going to take all of it and reappropriate it? Hello. They couldn't do that with rubles or cash or gold or silver or anything else. So your solution is part of a bigger problem, interestingly enough. And that's always how this shaitan works, the deceiver, to kill, steal, and destroy. It always gives you the next solution that's actually going to make the problem bigger and greater and more widespread and call you back to the one solution that everybody keeps ignoring or the majority keeps ignoring. So, you know, what's the truly most valuable thing you could have from the beginning of time? Even the Indians knew this. Fucking land. They're not making any more of it. There's a finite amount, and from the land comes all of your livelihood and survival and existence. You can't eat Bitcoin. You know,
land,
so
food, gold, silver.
It's all synonymous. The gold's in the damn land. The silver's in the damn land. You could buy land and dig up the damn gold and silver to some extent.
Tools. All those things are the real value. Bitcoin's the final solution as far as I can tell. It's the real takeover, you know, as far as I can tell. Because once they make Bitcoin the currency of the world, that's it. And they say, well, cash is no longer needed. We have Bitcoin. It's free. It's more, you can regulate it yourself. Once they do that, that's it. It's done. The control is complete, Mr. Surrender.
Right. And then this is Mr. Surrender too, can't seem to understand that you don't have a business model. The business model is Earth Inc. And if you make it in that system, then you have to lose it somewhere else. That's the game. So you want to tell me about doing so much business that you can't keep track of it all? My answer to you, my question to you will be, when is enough enough? So at a certain point, even if that's the case, your business model is hundreds of people worldwide generating X amount of value. At what point do you change your priorities and value systems from more cash to more of who and what I'm meant to be and less slavery. See, we're back to the original conversation about what is success truly. Not all money is good money. If you got to be a slave and submit to tyranny and corruption in order to reap those worldly rewards, and in the other world be judged, is it worth it? You got to ask yourself that. So what I'm talking about may not be sustainable in your / Earth Inc.'s business model because it's not supposed to be. In order to take your soul, you have to align with the business model of Earth Inc. If you want your soul back, you have to step out of Earth Inc. and live on the land as an honorable, good faith, co-creative being, which means you may have to scale down your business and scale up your standard for yourself and slavery and genocide. Sorry. You know, you can't have your cake and eat it too, right? Would you rather live within your means and do without certain things to live in a kingdom of heaven? Or would you rather be rich in the pockets living in hell? That's the question you have to ask yourself.
I gotta go, Paulie. I gotta go get a sheet of plywood. I'm short.
Thank you, Lewis.
Good to see you. Take it easy.
You're at least 5'9". You're not that short. Don't be mad at you. Don't be down on yourself.
What, me?
Yeah. Said you're a little short.
I'm okay.
All right, get the hell out of here.
I'm an even 6 foot and 6-inch dick. It's good enough.
All right, he's always got to bring up his inferior genitalia. Bye, Lewis. We'll pray for you. Yeah, you know, it's like I'm not Mr. Religious. I'm not Mr. Preacher, man. I'm not Mr. Whatever, you know, you're used to hearing or seeing. And it's not like a rap. You know, it's like this is actually what it is, whether I even like it or not. So I'm just telling you what it is or what it seems to be. So, yeah, you know, again, first you get the money, then you get the false power, then you get the false respect. They take your money, your false power, and your false respect goes with it. If you get the true respect of self and God, and you get the true empowerment situation here, there's a good chance they can't take your money and property. And if they do, it's not all of who and what you are and what you serve. So I think it's very much a cart before the horse situation. Folks are so worried about creating a sustainable business model to get more and more cash, to have more and more obligations and responsibilities that turns them more and more into a slave, instead of figure out how to be more and more free and honorable and righteous and then take that to your busyness to create value or to do service or to produce something for your community. Cart before the horseism, right? We live in a fiat society. I agree. That's the solution. It's a process. I can accept that. You know, we're all at varying stages of recognizing this and refocusing on resolving. Pedro Castillo says, for keep on keeping on. Thank you, Mr. Castillo. Latino angel, as it were. All right, I think I'm feeling rather complete, brothers and sisters. I think I'm going to leave it there. There's no lawful money to pay, right? There's legal society, privately minted debt instruments, or legal tender, as they call it. Paulie talked me into it, going to find private compensation through gifting. I can't talk you into anything or out of anything. I can tell you what I perceive it to be, give you my experience, and then we all learn from that together. You know? So like the man said, it's a process of revelation. It's a process of resolution and resolving. You probably don't even know you're completely there until you look back at it. And there's still always more to go, right? All right, final questions, comments, concerns. I'll throw the link again. Cynthia had something with Brian O'Shea. If she wants, I'll entertain that to a limited degree. If not, I'm getting the hell out of here. Got a grim hustle. Why not? Let's do the grim hustle. Give you folks the last 5 minutes to get your shit together, get up here and present. And if not, we're on the way out. The reason for your distraction. Let's see what they got. Haven't seen it yet. We'll watch together.
Have you ever heard of 5th generation warfare? It is fired at your brain every day, every hour, awake and during sleep. The term 5th generation warfare was first used in 2003 by Robert Steele, a CIA officer. It is warfare of non-kinetic military action, social engineering, misinformation, cyber attacks, mass media, and pop culture. Take a look back. First generation warfare, linear tactics, Napoleon. Second generation warfare, firepower-centric tactics, World War I. Third generation warfare, maneuver warfare, World War II. Fourth generation warfare, asymmetric and guerrilla tactics, Vietnam and Afghanistan. Fifth generation warfare, the war of information, emotion, and narratives. I am not an expert in ballistics, but I am an expert in narratives. If you want my 7 rules to combat fifth generation warfare for yourself and your family, do the following. Number 1, filter. Not everything you see or hear is true. Learn to ask who benefits from me believing this. Understand the agenda behind the narratives. Number 2, silence. Turn off your phone, log off your social media. Spend at least 1 hour every day in silence to think, reflect, and let your mind recharge. The battlefield of fifth generation warfare is your attention. Number 3, guard your circle. The people around you influence your worldview. Surround yourself with honorable, grounded individuals who challenge and elevate you, not those who spread confusion or fear. Number 4, invest in analog skills. In a digital war, analog skills make you resilient. Learn things that cannot be hacked or manipulated. Self-defense, growing your own food, or building and fixing with your own hands. Number 5, reading will get you a mind of your own. Books make you think for yourself. Read the classics, read history, read stories of people who overcame grim times. Reading makes every mind stronger. Number 6, control the narrative of your own life. If you do not create your story, someone else will. Define your values, your goals, and your mission. Write it down, live by it, stick to it. And finally, of course, number 7, the heroes of the stories you consume become closer than friends. Who are you letting into your life, Drew? Would you have friends like Walter White, Cersei Lannister, the Joker? Why then are you watching these people? You become who you spend time with, and that goes for bad friends and bad heroes. But at Grimm, we have one saying: don't complain, build. That's why we are creating the Grimm Cinematic Universe. Storytelling and narratives to build people, not break people. The first book tells my story, the story of Andriucha. It's the story of a lost young man who flees his bad father to go and travel. But after the new friend turns out to be a drug smuggler, it throws the hero into the dark prison of the Soviet Union, where he grows from boy to man, forced to survive by joining the ranks of the Russian mafia, the Vori в законе. Life is grim, but only in darkness will you see the true worth of character, values, and honor. It's easy to be a good, strong man in good times, but it's hard to be a good man in grim times. That is what we need to be. That is the essence of our power, the essence of the Grimm mythology. Go deeper now if you are ready. Here is our mythology. Honor will come.
So just one more addition to the last commentary, and then I'll get out of here. folks have to remember too that I don't really go into this because I don't typically do business in that capacity, status and standing. But there is a middle ground, even when it comes to legalism and taxation and all these qualifications. So I'll give you the example and then I'm getting out of here, but I'm sure most people know of this. Another thing they've probably not attempted to practice, most people, but the folks who play by the supposed rules of this system, who don't opt out, they just use the codes and statutes and policies to their advantage, like Donnie does. So, for example, for the guy who's got a worldwide business and he's subject to certain tax beyond a certain bracket, there's nothing stopping you from, if you're going to declare and report anyway, and you want to buy into all this stuff, there's nothing stopping you after a certain point from taking the rest of what you create in value and appropriating it to some organization or being that then exempts you from taxation beyond a certain point. So let's say if you make over, I don't know the actual numbers, I haven't looked at the chart, but there's a chart for all this crap. You make over 500,000, then you're taxed 50% or 40% on everything over that amount, right? Everything up to that, it's 10%, let's say. Well, there's nothing stopping you from up till the 10% marker, presuming that you're operating that way in that capacity and are subject to that. There's nothing stopping you from cutting your value off at that point and then reinvesting that value into some other business or charitable endeavor, which then allows you to claim a deduction. So again, I would prefer for myself and as many others that we work outside of these systems and not subject ourselves to the jurisdiction. But if you're claiming that's scary or that doesn't exist, well, there's always opportunities within the system to sort of, refocus your time, energy, attention, and value, and potentially to be exempt from certain duties and obligations. So, imagine how many folks who come here and believe it or not, there's probably a lot of folks. Here's where I do the shameless indirect sort of plug, as they'll see it, or grift, but there is some truth to this. How many folks come here who make over X amount of US debt notes a year, right? They don't make them, they collect them. And then rather than turn around and put that value back into something that is tax deductible, they let the systems and the agents decide we're taking X amount and we're going to redistribute the rest here and there and all the rest of it, right? I don't know the particulars of it because it's never really been my world, and I've always tried to, as much as possible, operate outside the jurisdiction and boundaries so I'm not subject to these obligations. But it would seem to me, if I was someone who came here regularly, or even like Jack Slackcott's area, whoever, whatever, you see value and worth in them and their cause and what they do. If I was so flushed with cash that I had all these extra obligations and duties that was then going to subject me to them taking X amount of what I've created and giving it to war programs and entitlement programs and all the rest of the crap, I would just take out deductions and I would give that value to folks who are going to use it to co-create something bigger and better that would allow me a deduction on those obligations. So that's like your worst case or lowest aspect of solution, non-solution for me, as far as I see it, right? So yeah, I would just start donating to various causes, and various form. I would be doing various forms of charity and deductive investment in order to spread that value around to places where I see power and value and truth, and I see honor in contributing to that, and then subjecting myself less to the percentage-based obligations and duties. I know that's one way that a lot of folks who have the problem of taking in so many debt notes, they generate excess obligations, is they engage in investment or philanthropy that doesn't subject them to the same obligations. And of course, there's a back end with that, right? If John Rockefeller gifts such and such $1 million and avoids taxation beyond a certain point, which lowers his percentage of payment, duties and obligations, well, then it's kind of inferred to some extent on the back end that there's like credit there with that organization. I mean, we're now essentially going into politics. How does political science work? Well, it's basically a bunch of rich people who want to bring down their percentages of duties and obligations so they donate or contribute to a whole bunch of causes that allow them to, on the back end, to be influential. You know, oh, I gave everything over my 100,000 salary to XYZ corporation business endeavor, and I'm not getting anything physically back for it. I didn't buy and sell anything, but obviously you have pull now, and you're part of a network, and you have connections to maybe do or be a part of things you wouldn't have before, right? We're basically talking lobbying now indirectly. So goes on all day, every day. Believe it or not, folks trade in various forms of power and value, and actually generate less obligations for themselves with more benefits and privileges or power on the back end. But that's not my that's not the core of who and what I am, or the highest goal in this interaction or experience. You know, is to be in it and of it, and then try to use the ridiculous codes and definitions and rules to our profit and benefit without ever confronting it and sort of stating a claim and reconciling what we don't understand or what doesn't make sense to us. All right, I think I'm going to leave it there. Cynthia, I don't think wants to come up. She thought better of it. Probably better off for her and everyone else, including Brian O'Shea. She thought better of it. It probably wasn't going to be productive, but I'm open for it. I keep saying I'm open for it. Cynthia, if you're there, give me the question. I'm a little bit curious what you wanted to ask Mr. O'Shea. If not, save it for next time. Last things to the contributors and supporters and all, including losers, failures, haters, the delusionals. I may be one of all these things at various times. You never know. Stranger things have happened. So all criticism is self-criticism on some level. But blessings to all, especially the folks who are in a lower state of beingness. They need it the most. We're choosing love here. We're not living in hate. Mr. Shively, much love, times 2. You say it twice so the people really feel it. I've learned that from a lot of these content creators. Rage against the machine? Not so much. Raging against the machine has unintended consequences for oneself. You don't have to rage or be against the machine in order to not be part of it. Quite the opposite. You just got to pick up and walk away. Stop engaging with it as much as possible. You know, put yourself on record as something other than being of it. We'll leave it there. No need to rage against the machine. It's not going to do you any good anyway. It'll have unintended detrimental consequences to oneself. Just get up and get out. Be a lot easier on everybody. Then you can respect yourself, and then these folks on the supposed other side can respect you as well, right? Because you're not raging and you're not against anything. If you find the easiest journey in life, you're intentionally on the most destructive road. There it is. I'll accept that. Only the things that are testing and challenging at times are really worth doing here. Seem to be what's meant for our highest good. The easiest path potentially is the wrong path. If you find yourself on the side of the majority, it's probably a time to pause and reflect. Paul, unconvinced on the way out, say good night or good day to the bad guy. Back who knows when. If we're all blessed and lucky, we'll be back here at some point within the week. 1 a week at this point. Maybe 2. If we're all lucky. Healing up. I'm looking forward to I'm looking forward to being on the land and being in nice weather and being with the trees and just growing this July. So kind of what I'm focused on first and foremost. Okay, bye. I'm out of here.
Hey, who the fuck you think you're talking to, huh? Who the fuck you think I am? Fucking dumb boy? Dumb brother. You wanna go to war? Come on. You wanna go to war? We take you to war. Hey.
This is an arduous task. You need discipline and will. There's nothing fucking guaranteed. That's called being a man in life.
God
Where
damn
else
it,
in life do you get fucking guarantees exactly? Can you find something in life being a fucking man that you get a guarantee over and isn't worth doing because it's difficult, testing, challenging, and requires something of a motherfucker to get it done? Where are we at here? Seriously, what fucking realm
Super
am I in?
aggressive.
Bunch of
He's super
inauthentic
aggressive.
corporate beta males who want to just say shit that makes no sense and avoid the inherent hierarchical power and value systems, meaning and purpose and principles written into the cosmos and the fabric of reality. One with self in conscience. Would you please stop? We're done. I'm done with you. If I can see you and know you, the damn universe and whatever runs it can see you and know you, and it's doling out as we speak. I'm saying you gotta bang it out sometime. I'm saying you gotta go to a box sometime. I'm saying you gotta put some shit on record and surrender in faith and not know where it's gonna end up. That's the whole point of doing what I do. Because nothing is guaranteed. It's called cosmic gambling, you bitch ass motherfucker, and you wouldn't know nothing about it because fortune favors the bold, and you're not fortunate. You're an unfortunate slave. I can tell by looking at you. That's why we're in slavery and genocide, because weak fucking bitch-ass males create hard times. Go ask the Hopis who prophesied that. Don't argue with me. They're supposed to hate. If they ain't hating, right, then we ain't doing what's true and what's right. How many motherfuckers you think were hating on the Christed being in Scripture for walking around like he had a pair? For telling everybody and their mother and brother, you better hate your own father and mother if necessary to ride with this God in truth. They forget how that being was walking around telling them, you're a status fucking infidel swine, and so are they, and you better come out of her, my people, or we're all going into judgment. You folks still haven't figured out the only reason I got to this point is because I abolished my ego and aligned with universal law completely. What you perceive as ego is your ego and narcissism you're projecting onto me. I've killed off my false sense of lower self to unite with a higher sense of self to do what needs to be done for all of us. That's the absence of ego, not the abundance of it. Projecting fuck slaves. The egotistical, narcissistic ones are the ones who haven't done what I've done yet and continue to not do it because their fear runs their life. They're not faithful in truth. They're afraid of the damn truth, and they run the opposite direction into the arms of their captors, right? Or into a purgatorial state of delusion. Either way, same outcome, unactualized, unrealized, spiritually dead, back to the recycling pit for you. See if we can get it in the next slide.
Give me cock, give me wife, give me children, give me this, give me that, kill my enemy, kill my enemy, kill my enemy, give me, kill my enemy, give me. Anyone that doesn't want me to succeed, die by fire, die by fire, die by fire, die by fire, die by fire. Give me this, give me that, kill my enemy, give me that, give me this, give me, die by fire, die by fire, die by fire, die by fire, give me.
God damn it, Paul.